Konoha, the strategic alliance of Uchiha Shisui. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Cao Shuang definitely doesn't believe it. After drinking the porridge, both of them felt much warmer. Shisui put down the bowl with a satisfied look on his face, and then asked, "Teacher, aren't you worried about being noticed by the Konoha high-level officials, and plan to come to my place in a few days?" Sima Yi smiled helplessly when he mentioned this. "Haha, man proposes, God disposes. Yesterday, I pretended to be drunk and asked Hua to take me back, but I found that my broken wooden house had been blown down by the wind because it had not been used for a long time. I had to stay at Hua's house for one night, but living in their house will inevitably restrict my future work. After thinking about it, I decided to come here. It's also a reason that is not abrupt." "Is that so, teacher? Please wait here for a while. I will go to prepare a room for you. I am the only one in this yard. You can live in any room you want." Sima Yi had heard about Shisui's family a long time ago, and did not ask too much, just said, "This is not urgent. Let's talk about what happened yesterday first." When talking about what happened yesterday, Shisui's mood was a little low. He had to admit that what Sima Yi said at the beginning was right, and he did ignore too much. Yesterday, Shisui started from the conversation between Danzo and the third Hokage, and repeated the whole process word for word. "It seems that the Hokage did doubt you, but you handled it properly. After many attempts, he still believed you." Sima Yi praised him generously. Although Shisui's thinking was still not up to par, it was already precious, which made him feel quite accomplished. I would rather not have these than think that the third Hokage would really do this." In the past, Shisui would have been grateful to the Hokage for helping him up, but he felt extremely awkward when he was helped up yesterday. "Don't worry about it. As a Hokage, it's just his instinct to suppress the powerful. Compared with the Hokage, you should be more wary of that Danzo." "Danzo?" Shisui frowned. Danzo's disgust for Uchiha was barely concealed, which really gave him a headache. "The ones who blocked us outside Konoha today were not the Anbu directly under the Hokage, but the root secretly cultivated by Danzo. This organization has been hiding in the dark and is only loyal to Danzo. They claim to be the root hidden in the dark, and they have always acted ruthlessly and unscrupulously to protect Konoha." "Protect Konoha?" Even Sima Yi, who is so cunning, couldn't help but chuckle when he heard it. He kept private soldiers and trained death warriors. "You said he was protecting the country? Do you ask Cao Shuang if he believes it?" "Anyway, Sima Yi doesn't believe it. After all, that's what he did." "Why are you laughing, teacher?" Shisui was puzzled, thinking carefully about what he had just said, and didn't notice anything wrong. "It's okay, it's okay. I just remembered some old things, but this Danzo may be a great help in the future." "Danzo? Help? Can he help us?" Shisui wanted to disbelieve it, but when he thought about it carefully, Sima Yi almost made no mistakes, and his face suddenly became very ugly. "The world is bustling, all for profit. There is no absolute hatred between families and forces. It depends on whether what we propose can move him." Shisui did not refute. He lowered his head and pondered, savoring every word of Sima Yi. "But that's all for later consideration. Now such an unstable person really needs to be treated with caution. On the surface, even the Hokage will follow the rules, but based on Sima Yi's impression of Danzo, it is obvious that the other party is not a person who will follow the rules. This is very disadvantageous for them." Shisui raised his head, his eyes were like torches, and he was extremely serious. "Don't worry, teacher. I won't let anyone hurt you." "Me?" Sima Yi's expression was weird. He looked at Shisui and shook his head slowly. "Don't worry about me. Even if he takes action, he will only look for you." "Huh? It is said that you are the strongest person in Uchiha now. If you are eliminated, Uchiha will have no support and will naturally not dare to rebel again. This is not a bad idea." "Damn, he still has to live to stop Uchiha's crazy behavior. How can he die so easily?" "I will be careful and will never let Danzo succeed." Sima Yi smiled. A large part of Danzo's behavior came from the will of the Hokage, But there was no need to let Shisui know about this for the time being. If you have nothing to do in the next few days, please help me find some books. It would be best if they are about the history of Uchiha. Of course, it would be even better if there are histories of the Land of Fire and other countries. The history of Uchiha is easy. I will go to the clan leader later. He must have it. But the history of other countries may take some time. This kind of thing is a secret. He needs to go to the capital to start with the daimyo's family. Only those nobles may have such a collection of books. No hurry. There shouldn't be any big moves during this period of time as the new year is approaching. I can also take this time to walk around Konoha and learn about it. By the way, teacher, wait for me. Shisui suddenly remembered something when he heard it. He quickly got up and ran to a cabinet to look for it. Then he took out 2 stacks of banknotes and handed them to Sima Yi. Teacher, you just came to Konoha and you should need something. Here are 200,000 taels. If it's not enough, tell me. I rarely use these things on weekdays, and I have saved a lot. Is this money? Sima Yi picked up a piece and put it in front of his eyes to examine it carefully. It was the first time he saw the currency of this world. Unlike the gold and copper he imagined, the money here was just a piece of paper. The Konoha logo was also printed on the banknote. Sima Yi did not refuse. It just so happens that I have time today. Let's go shopping together later. When this was mentioned, Shisui's face showed a trace of embarrassment. He clasped his hands together and said, "Sorry, teacher. I have promised Ichi that I will accompany him to practice today, so I may not be able to go with you." Ichi? Sima Yi waved his hand. Shisui's absence did not affect his shopping. He was more curious about Uchiha Ichi, the kid holding the child yesterday. I remember you said he was the eldest son of the clan leader's family. Yes, Ichi is also a genius, the pride of the clan leader's family, with a capacity that ordinary people don't have, and was praised by the third Hokage as a person with the mindset of a Hokage. If it was Shisui who introduced him proudly in the past, but now his expression is particularly ugly. Capacity, the mindset of a Hokage, ha ha ha. The child yesterday looked only 6 or 7 years old. Sima Yi couldn't help laughing and shook his head. Although this third Hokage is in a high position, he is so mean. It's really not decent to use flattery to deal with a child. Shisui lowered his head and sighed. Yes, but judging from the results, he should have succeeded. After that, he told Sima Yi the future he saw that day. Sima Yi's eyes changed. He was able to exterminate the entire Uchiha clan with his own strength. It seems that there must be someone helping him behind the scenes. It must be Danzo. Danzo's behavior of wanting to exterminate the Uchiha clan made Shisui hate him even more. Just keep your suspicion. When you come into contact with Ichi, you must find a way to change his mind. Don't always worry about troubles. Teacher, I will. Sima Yi pondered for a moment, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. If something cannot be done, maybe it can be done. Chapter 27. Konoha Tour. Ichi is the eldest son of the Fugaku clan leader. If nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely be the next clan leader. If Shisui wants to succeed, he will definitely stand on the opposite side of Ichi. Whether for the sake of the family or the position of clan leader, killing the other party may be a good thing. No, Shisui's heart tightened, and he couldn't help shouting loudly. After shouting, he realized that something was wrong, lowered his head, and looked like he had made a mistake. Sima Yi frowned. He didn't expect Shisui and Ichi to have such a good relationship, but he has never been a person who suppresses the younger generation with power. He said softly, "This is just an option. He can do such a thing, so he must be strong. If you can convince him after you become the clan leader, it will also be a strong pillar for the family." Shisui breathed a sigh of relief. "Sorry, teacher, I lost my temper." "It doesn't matter, but in the future, if you want to seize the position of clan leader, what will happen between you and him?" "No, if it's Ichi, if it's him, as long as I tell him my idea, he will definitely support me." Shisui looked up, and he stared at Sima Yi firmly. "You want to take his position as the clan leader, and he still supports you?" Sima Yi was silent. This was the third time that Shisui was sure of a person's character. The relationship between these people was more complicated and bizarre than he thought. Of course, it was mainly bizarre. If that's the case, With his help, the position of clan leader may be taken in one fell swoop without a fight. Sima Yi didn't know these people, so he didn't comment too much, just went along with Shisui. Thank you for your support, teacher. Shisui smiled, and was determined to pull Uchi back on the right track from the wrong path. Then the two of them talked for a few words and then separated. Shisui went to Fugaku's mansion, and Sima Yi took the money and asked Hua to leave the clan land together to explore the depths of Konoha. Ha, Uncle Yi, why are you going out shopping in such a cold day? And you even asked me. Hua looked tired. He drank a lot last night, and he really didn't want to get up in the winter. You are so young. How can you be so lax and lazy? How can you achieve great things in the future? What's the matter? It's good to eat and wait for death. Anyway, I can't be a Hokage. Yesterday, my father found me a job in the police department. I will go there to retire in the future. Sima Yi was not angry when he heard this. Instead, he laughed. The Uchiha people are really more interesting than each other. Shisui gave me a lot of money. You accompany me, an old man, to go shopping. Tonight, let's go to eat the barbecue you have been thinking about. Barbecue. Who immediately became energetic. Although he is very powerful, as an Uchiha, he doesn't actually have much income. Except for the wartime, they are difficult to accept those high-level tasks in peacetime, and there are often various restrictions. Especially after the Nine-Tailed Rebellion, the funds allocated by the village to the police department have been less and less year by year. Great, Uncle Yi, how much did Shisui give? Can I eat enough? Eating barbecue all you can. But Hua has always had a small goal. Don't worry, just lead the way. After getting the answer, Hua was very excited, and he straightened his chest and began to look forward to the delicious food tonight. This is just the periphery. There is nothing to see. Let's go inside. Seeing Sima Yi patrolling the periphery, Hua felt a little strange and reminded him. Sima Yi took the opportunity to frown, and he covered his forehead and sighed. I'm getting old, and I feel that my memory of the past is not clear recently. It's only been a year since I left the village, and I have almost forgotten many things. Hua's expression changed, and he quickly came over to support him. It's okay, Uncle Yi, you will definitely live to be 100 years old. I can't say I can live to be 100 years old, but I'm sure I can live to be 70 years old. No problem. You can introduce them to me again so that I can recall them well, so that I won't leave with regrets. Don't worry, I'm very familiar with Konoha. Hua patted his chest and pointed to the surroundings and said, this is just the outskirts of Konoha. Most of the people who live here temporarily are merchants who came from the capital. The rest are here to entrust tasks. Most of them are nobles, and they are not easy to mess with. Entrust tasks? Well, yes. Doing tasks is an important means of survival for ninjas. Unfortunately, we Uchiha have always been excluded in Konoha. Uncle Yi probably hasn't received any tasks for a long time, and he even forgot about it. Hua felt the same way and didn't doubt it. Nobles? Tasks? Sima Yi was keenly aware of something, but didn't say much. They entrust tasks, and ninjas are responsible for accepting them and making profits. Konoha should take a lot of it, right? Of course, after the task is completed, 20% of it will be counted as a handling fee and given to Konoha, but that's nothing. After all, it has always been like this. It is equivalent to taxation. Sima Yi understands. You can go to the inner part from this street. It's much more lively inside than here. There's also a barbecue restaurant there. The two of them crossed several streets and came to the inner part of Konoha. Apples. The last apples of winter, shipped from the capital. Dumplings, with mutton filling. 60 taels a bowl selling buns, chickens, ducks, geese, dogs, pigs, cattle and sheep. Everything ramen. As soon as they entered the inner part, a wave of hot air hit them in the face. There were continuous shouts on both sides of the street, and the villagers who came in went shrank their necks and looked around. A burst of strange aromas immediately activated Sima Yi's taste buds. He followed the aroma and found it was a breakfast shop. What would you like? A woman was busy in front of the store. When the two approached, she looked up and was slightly stunned when her eyes fell on Hua's clothes. Then she reacted and asked, what are they selling here? Sima Yi asked curiously, smelling the fragrance in the air. Seeing the old man's extraordinary demeanor, The woman dared not neglect him and hurriedly replied, "It's mutton offal soup. Would you like a bowl?" "2 bowls, let's sit down and rest for a while." Hui naturally had no objection. He was now afraid that Sima Yi would have an accident and his father would skin him alive when he returned. The soup was quickly served. Sima Yi blew away the heat and tasted it slowly. He could not help but nod and praised, "Not bad. The taste is very rich." "I didn't expect that mutton offal could be boiled into such a delicious thick soup, is there?" Hui looked at Sima Yi with a puzzled look at the ordinary mutton offal soup in the bowl. He drank several mouthfuls in a row and didn't think there was anything worthy of praise. Sima Yi chuckled and didn't explain. He enjoyed the food, but he didn't forget to pay attention to the villagers passing by. He carefully looked at everyone's expression and looked at every shop. After a bowl of soup, the two of them felt much warmer. "You too." A total of 160 taels. The woman wiped the water stains on her hands and looked at Hui. "Ahem, Uncle Yi." Hui looked embarrassed. He didn't have any money in his pocket, and he felt uncomfortable being stared at like that. Sima Yi smiled and took out a banknote from his pocket. Each banknote Shisui gave him was worth 1,000 taels. "Wait a moment." The woman took the banknote and turned away. Sima Yi took this opportunity to ask casually, "Madam Boss, you make a lot of money every day selling soup here, right?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Police Department. This place is the junction of the inside and the outside, and there are many people coming and going. Sima Yi saw more than 10 people coming in and out of this small shop in just one bowl of soup. Unexpectedly, the woman sighed lightly, "I can't make much money, just enough to eat and wear." Then she didn't say much and handed the change to Sima Yi. Seeing this, Sima Yi left the shop without asking any more questions. "You too, do you want some apples? This is the last batch of this year, shipped from the capital, and the Hokage said it was delicious after eating it." "Apples?" There are actually apples that are so well preserved in this season. As soon as they left the shop, they were stopped by a fruit vendor. The vendor was wearing a headscarf and looked festive. "That's right, in order to transport these apples, we have entrusted a lot of ninjas to help. You too can buy some and try them." Sima Yi took an apple, although he said that it was well preserved. In fact, these apples were already slightly dehydrated. However, he did not refuse, but asked, "How much?" "Not much, not much, just 100 taels. A bowl of mutton soup is 80 taels, and 1 pound of apples is only 100 taels, which is not much." "1 pound? No, 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 old man, you misunderstood. It's 100 taels each." Sima Yi looked at the wilted apples in his hand, and then looked at the vendor with a festive face. After a moment of silence, he finally bought 10. Crunch, who was carrying the things, biting the apples, and said with disgust, "This thing is dry and not delicious." "Leave it to Shisui, he is still growing. It's good to eat some fruit." "Shisui, that's true. Since the clan sent him to the Hokage, he has been either doing missions or on the way to do missions. I guess he hasn't had a hot meal for many times." Hui shook his head and sighed. The number of missions Shisui has done in a year is equivalent to that of his 20 years. He is really working hard. Boom! At this moment, a loud noise suddenly came from more than 10 meters away from the two. The sudden movement immediately attracted everyone's attention, and they all leaned forward. "Go and have a look." Sima Yi was also interested and followed the crowd. "Hey, uncle, slow down. Be careful of the crowd." The two followed the crowd to the center of the street and looked closely. They saw 2 young ninjas wearing the Uchiha clan emblem surrounded in the middle. They were wearing the uniforms of the police department and their faces were very ugly at the moment. There was also a wealthy middle-aged man lying on the ground, screaming in pain while grabbing coins scattered around. In addition to some coins, there were also a lot of leather clothes and an overturned stall on the ground. "Another Uchiha. Why is this happening? It's so annoying. These Uchiha are bullying people again. Damn it. Why are these people still in Konoha? The Hokage should drive them out. They are just doing what they should do." The noisy discussions came to his ears, and Hua's face changed. He frowned and was about to step forward, but was stopped by Sima Yi. Sima Yi's face was calm. He pulled Hua to a corner and watched quietly. What's going on? More and more people gathered around, and soon the police from other streets came. The leader was wearing a black tight combat uniform with a green jonin mail on the outside, with the Uchiha clan emblem embroidered on his shoulders and a strange brown short hair. This person was the captain of the second squad of the police department, Uchiha Yashiro. Sima Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. He had seen this person yesterday, just behind the great elder. Seeing the arrival of the Uchiha jonin, the people around him made way for him. Captain, Captain. The two people who were surrounded also breathed a sigh of relief and immediately stepped forward and said, Captain, we received a report that someone had illegally occupied the road and set up a stall here. After we came here, we wanted him to leave immediately, but he refused to leave no matter what, so we had to. I didn't. You are talking nonsense. I just passed by here to rest, and you came up and overturned my stall. You are ninjas. How can you bully an ordinary person like me like this? Before the members of the police department finished speaking, the wealthy man who was still screaming on the ground suddenly roared, and then he cried again. I just want to sell some clothes to earn some money to buy some delicious food for the children who have just returned from the front. Why do you want to cut off my life like this? The roar accompanied by crying moved everyone, especially those whose family members had just returned from the front. He is just selling some things. You don't have to overthrow him just because you don't like him. That's right. Uchiha people always enforce the law violently like this. Get them out of Konoha. The young man was furious when he heard the words, pointing at the wealthy man and trembling all over, and his Sharingan opened involuntarily. Another young man beside him clenched his fists. It was you who reported it, and then we came to manage it. How did it become our fault? His breath rose, and he began to extract chakra secretly. The scarlet eyes made everyone shudder. Uchiha Yashiro glanced at everyone and his eyes fell on a roof. Then he retracted his eyes and shouted, Stop! The young man's breath stagnated, snorted coldly, turned his head away and gasped, Since someone has reported him, let's take him back for investigation. The 8th generation of the Uchiha clan was indifferent and didn't argue at all. With a wave of his hand, 2 members of the police department immediately stepped forward and lifted up the wealthy man. Wait, what are you going to do? I didn't occupy the road. You Uchiha clan are trying to force me to confess. I want to see the Hokage. I want to see the Hokage. The wealthy man's face changed and he started to scream immediately. He kept struggling. Seeing this, the onlookers were all furious. They kept speaking, insulting, persuading, or threatening, but no one dared to cross the line. The crowd was excited. At this moment, there was a sudden movement on the eaves of the house on one side of the street. A masked ninja squatted there quietly. The Hokage has already known about this matter. Since it is just a small misunderstanding, please let him go. Don't gather here to affect the villagers. After saying that, he left in an instant, leaving everyone looking at each other in bewilderment. As expected of Hokage-sama, you found out so quickly. Fortunately, Hokage-sama is here. Otherwise someone else would be wronged by Uchiha, evil Uchiha. Why doesn't Hokage-sama drive them away? Facing the discussion of the crowd, the young Uchiha were all furious, but Uchiha Yashiro was calm and his emotions were always stable. Since Hokage-sama has spoken, let him go. Help him set up his stall and pack up. He has been in the police department for decades. He has seen this kind of thing too many times. Enough for him to ignore these words that once made him extremely angry. Soon, the crowd began to disperse. Hua's expression was very ugly. He didn't expect that the situation of the police department was still so difficult after so many years. And what about Sima Yi? He just smiled and watched all this with interest. Chapter 29. Various Industries. Are you still thinking about what happened just now? After leaving the street, the two walked around for a while. In just one morning, the conflict had played out 6 times in front of them, some big and some small. After a simple lunch, the two came to a place with less traffic. Sima Yi saw that Hua was still unhappy and asked with a chuckle. Hua looked depressed and nodded and said, Uncle Yi, why do you think so? The 8th uncle and the others were just doing what they should do. but they were rejected by the villagers like this. And it was only after they reported it themselves that the police department stepped in to solve it. But they insulted us Uchiha like this. It's simply unreasonable. Hua became more and more angry. The last time he was so angry was in the back camp, when Shisui was questioned by Udatenki. Damn Udatane. Sima Yi looked at the shops on both sides and smiled lightly without saying anything. Of course, he saw the problem, but there were so many people here, so he would not give people a chance to talk about him. He just comforted him. Misunderstandings are always inevitable. If you interact more with the villagers, maybe they will understand Uchiha. Understand? Hua looked at Sima Yi with a strange expression. Uncle Yi, how could you say that? Now it was Sima Yi's turn to be surprised. Who else said that? It seems that everyone said that. Shisui, the chief of the Fugaku clan, Tuo, Doho, my dad too, and the Hokage. Everyone is talking about mutual understanding. Anyway, I have only met a few people who understand Uchiha in all these years. That Kakashi is one, and the fourth generation is one. It's a pity. Hua became more depressed after saying that. Haha, well, why bother about those trivial matters? Then help me see why there are so few people on this street. Sima Yi observed that the decorations of the shops on both sides were obviously different from before, and the people coming and going here all had a gloomy and violent aura. Sima Yi had seen this situation before. Most of these people had just returned from the war and their emotions were not stable yet. Most of the things sold here are related to ninjas. The prices are quite high. Ordinary people can't afford them at all. Most of the people who come here are ninjas. Hua suddenly pointed to a shop with the Uchiha clan emblem and said, "Those are our Uchiha shops. They specialize in selling props such as detonating tags and kunai, as well as some low-level fire escape ninjutsu that the Hokage has allowed to be sold." Sima Yi looked at the empty shop in front of him and sighed. It looks like business is not very good. Hua pointed at the opposite side with an angry look on his face and said, "Because there is also a shop opposite, and their business has been taken away." Sima Yi turned his head and looked in the direction he pointed. Although the shop opposite was not crowded with people, there were few people coming and going. Who dares to steal business from the Uchiha clan? Stealing someone's money is like killing their parents. How could the Uchiha tolerate such an obvious act? Hua looked around with his eyes moving, and whispered in Sima Yi's ear, "I heard from the tribe that it seems to be from the Sarutobi clan, but there is no evidence. But the clan leader suppressed it and didn't let us cause trouble." Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage. Sima Yi suddenly realized, and took another look at the other party's decorations. There was indeed no clan emblem, so he smiled. "Haha, that's it. Well, since the night of the Nine Tails, many shops in our clan have disappeared, and most of the business has been taken away. The chief of the Fugaku clan has repeatedly given in, and our life is getting harder and harder." The two walked along the street, and Sima Yi remembered all the shops on this street and the families behind them. Those pharmacies belonged to the Nara family. When my father was practicing taijutsu, he often came here to buy medicinal materials. It was precious. My father almost gave them half of the mission reward. These are from the Hyuga family. They are the strongest family in Konoha besides our Uchiha. Oh? Sima Yi became interested and looked at it carefully. Just as he was about to step forward, he was stopped by Hua. He leaned close to Sima Yi's ear and whispered, "Uncle Yi, what are you doing?" "That's the Hyuga clan. You can't go in." I molt. My eyes are not very good. I just want to get closer to see what they are selling. What can they sell? It's nothing more than some secret medicines and ninja tools. They can't give us massages, right? Hua muttered softly, and it can be seen that he seems to be very dissatisfied with the Hyuga clan. Sima Yi remained calm and changed the subject quietly. "Why is there a painting shop here?" There was an inconspicuous small door sandwiched between several large shops, with a clan emblem engraved on it. "That belongs to the Kurama clan. They have always been on good terms with our Uchiha clan, but now they are also lonely." Hua sighed, thinking of the situation of the Uchiha clan, and couldn't help but be moved by the scene. The failure of political standing was liquidated. Sima Yi made a judgment in his heart and also remembered this family. The smoke coming out of that is the Akimaki family's barbecue restaurant. I heard that their seasonings include secret medicine purchased from the Nara family. Eating it is also good for ninjas, but the price is a bit expensive." Hui pointed to an intersection and introduced it with saliva dripping from his mouth. His eyes were shining and he looked at Sima Yi expectantly. "It's getting late, so let's eat some barbecue before going back." Sima Yi didn't spoil the fun and nodded in agreement with a smile. "Great, I'll go buy a few bottles of wine. Uncle Yi, you go and take a seat first." Hui clapped his hands and was a little excited. He turned around and took a few steps but turned back with an embarrassed look. Sima Yi had expected it and took out a few banknotes from his pocket. "Go quickly and come back soon, Uncle Yi, long live." After taking the money, the two separated. Sima Yi slowly came to the door of the Akimaki barbecue restaurant, and saw the clan emblem of the word food printed on the door curtain. "Old sir, are you alone?" Before he could come forward, a broad-bodied and kind-faced Akimaki tribe member passed by wearing a scarf. "Two people, help me find a quiet place." Sima Yi looked at the man in surprise, but he looked away in just a moment. "Please come in." Sima Yi followed the other party to a comfortable corner. A little further away were tables of people drinking and shouting. These people were wearing forehead protectors and were all ninjas. When they saw the old man coming, they just glanced at him and then looked away and continued their entertainment. "The dishes are all on the curtain. What would you like to order, old sir?" As if afraid that Sima Yi could not read, the boss read them out one by one. "Two of each, and by the way, help me prepare a basin of hot water. I want to warm up some wine." "Okay, wait a moment." The boss was a little surprised to hear that two of each was required, but he did not ask any more questions. After noting it down, he glanced at the ninjas a little further away and said, "If you have anything, old sir, you can call me directly." After saying that, he turned and left. Sima Yi looked around without expression, as if thinking about something, but he soon shifted his attention away from these ninjas. He looked at the curtain with the dishes painted on it, and shook his head after seeing the prices. A portion of pork is 800 taels, mutton is 1,200 taels, beef is 1,500 taels, and venison is 2,000 taels. With such prices, it seems that there is indeed a problem. Chapter 30. Drunken Incident. Even though he didn't care about money, the price was too bizarre. A serving of dumplings cost 60 taels, a serving of mutton soup cost only 80 taels, but a serving of pork cost 800 taels, and venison cost an astonishing 2,000 taels. With prices so high, he finally understood why the woman said that she couldn't make any money at all. It was probably more than that. There should be commissions from other places. If you don't take what God gives you, you will suffer the consequences. Sima Yi was not worried but happy. He stroked his long beard calmly, but his eyes flashed with a gleam of light. After a while, a member of the Akimaki tribe came to set up the stove and demonstrated to Sima Yi how to grill meat. Before the pork slices were grilled, Xianui came with a few bottles of sake engraved with the words Jiu Niang. As soon as he stepped into the barbecue restaurant, the eyes of all the ninjas in the store were cast on him. A small number of them just took a look and then looked away, while most of the ninjas stared at him with complicated eyes. Hui seemed to be unaware and sat down opposite Sima Yi. He sighed. "It's a good thing we went early, otherwise the last bit would be gone." Then he exclaimed, "Uncle Yi, you ordered so much. Ha ha ha, lucky." The pork was sizzling on the iron rack, and the special seasoning fell through the gaps onto the charcoal fire, raising a burst of smoke. Hui sniffed carefully, drooling, staring at the meat on the rack. After Caillou Dao's people left, he took over the tongs and continued to grill the meat. "Uncle Yi, try it quickly, we must have made the right decision today." Hui put the first piece of grilled meat into Sima Yi's bowl. Sima Yi did not refuse, and his behavior was gentle and polite. "Well, it's fat but not greasy, fragrant but not full, and it tastes really good. It's much better than Shisui's grilled fish." Sima Yi enjoyed these new delicacies and praised them generously. "That's right, the venison here is a must. I'll roast it for you to try," Hui said as he got busy again. Sima Yi waved his hand and passed the roasted meat to Hui. "Don't worry, eat more. Just a taste. Too much is as bad as too little." He always restrains his desires and tries a little. Seeing Sima Yi say this, Hui was no longer polite. eating meat and drinking wine, and the two of them ate and drank and talked a lot, until late at night. When it was close to closing time, several tables of ninjas in the distance left one after another, and then they stopped. "Store owner, please prepare a food box for me, one for mutton and one for venison." His mouth was full of oil at this moment, his belly was bulging, and he was even slightly drunk. Hearing this, he said, "Uncle Yi, I'm full, no need to come again. This venison is a bit high." He hasn't been so satisfied for a long time, and his face was full of smiles. Sima Yi was naturally aware that venison had an aphrodisiac effect. He just chuckled and said, "Shisui probably hasn't eaten yet. Roast some for him to take away. Here's the bill. You too." The total was 18,400 taels. Hui sobered up instantly when he saw the bill. He followed Sima Yi obediently, holding the food box and carrying many bags of things, without even breathing a breath. After leaving the barbecue restaurant, the cold wind blew towards us. Looking at the villagers still coming and going on the street, Sima Yi asked, "Are most of those living in the inner part rich? How can there be so many rich families? I guess someone in the family just came back from the battlefield like us. It's rare for them to spend lavishly. They should save as much as possible on weekdays. After all, ninja training is very expensive. Why are they so rare in the outer area?" Hui looked at Sima Yi in surprise and replied, "There should be no other ninjas living in the outer area except us." Oh, a gust of cold wind blew, and Hui sobered up a lot. He immediately remembered the other party's state and sighed. People living in the outer area of Konoha are not eligible to participate in the ninja school assessment, which means they are not eligible to become ninjas. We used to live in the core area, but now, hey, let's not talk about it. Can't participate in the ninja school assessment? Sima Yi's eyes moved slightly and he secretly took note. The two walked slowly, passing by a row of street lamps. People walking under the street lamps were in groups of 3 or 5, quite peaceful. "Asshole, are you blind? Why did you bump into me, huh? What are you talking about? It was you who bumped into me. Why don't you apologize? What do you mean? Are you trying to pick a fight? Asshole, people like you should just die. Idiot, idiot." The sudden quarrel broke the silence, and everyone stopped to look, only to see 6 ninjas wearing forehead protectors standing on the side of the street facing each other. Their faces were ruddy and their auras were violent. The two leaders were even closer. They roared with impatience in their eyes. "Genin." Sima Yi knew their level with just one glance. He looked at Hui, but saw Hui slowly shook his head and whispered, "It's those people from the barbecue restaurant. They must be drunk. Someone will deal with them. Let's stay away." As he said that, he protected Sima Yi and moved to the side. "Bagayalu, go to hell." The two leaders could not help but pull out their kunai after a few breaths of verbal argument. The iron tools collided, sparks flew, and the clanging sound continued. As soon as the two started fighting, the other 4 people stopped restraining themselves and joined in. There were many ordinary people on the street. Seeing this, they screamed and hid far away. Seeing the noise getting louder, the sound of breaking air soon came from the distance, and several figures jumped down from the eaves of the surrounding houses. The leader was also wearing green joan and chain mail, but he was not Uchiha Yashiro. He had short black hair and a black spot on his forehead. His eyes were cold and frosty, and he rushed into the battle with a few moves and knocked the 6 people to the ground, and confiscated their weapons. "Which bastard dared to sneak attack me? Do you know who I am? If you have the ability, let me go. How can you rest?" Several people were restrained before they could react. The two leaders were even more arrogant and struggled hard even after being pressed to the ground. "This is Brother Tuo's patrol area. With him, these genin can't cause any trouble." Seeing the person coming, Hui kept nodding and commenting. The familiar name also attracted Sima Yi's attention. Seeing that the two dared to defy him, Uchiha Tuo did not show any courtesy. He opened his Sharingan and picked them up, forcing them to look at each other. In just a moment, the two collapsed to the ground without moving. Seeing this, the other 4 were frightened and sobered up, and immediately cooperated. "Take them away, and notify their families to go to the prison to pick them up in 3 days." Towards such a ninja who took the initiative to cause trouble, the few people were not polite at all. and they dragged them away rudely. After the Uchiha people left, discussions gradually began to rise around them. Fortunately, people from the police department are here. These ninjas are so annoying, they always make trouble when they are drunk. These Uchiha people are so nosy, they didn't hurt anyone else. How can they treat Konoha's heroes like this? We have been fighting outside for Konoha. People from the police department only know how to bully the ninjas in the village. If they have the ability, they should go to the front line to kill the enemy. Damn it, these civilian ninjas are so annoying. Fortunately, we have the Uchiha to hold them back. All kinds of comments poured into Sima Yi's ears. He carefully identified the identity of each person, his eyes moving slightly. Chapter 31 Kalgong borrows the head. Bang, 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 thump. Thump shurikens collided with each other in the air, splashing bursts of fire, and then hit the practice targets in strange arcs, each of which was a 10 ring. Suddenly, Shisui stopped moving. He threw down his things and came to the front yard with a smile and said, "Welcome back, teacher." Sima Yi just pushed open the gate with his things when he saw Shisui instantly came to his side and took the things. He couldn't help but smile and said, "If I had such a sensible grandson, my previous life would be a lot easier." Shisui paused. He immediately looked up at Sima Yi. His eyes moved slightly with some expectation. "Teacher, if you don't mind, you can treat me as your grandson, and I can call you grandpa in the future." Sima Yi was stunned. He just praised casually and didn't expect Shisui to care so much. However, he was never a spoiler. He was just a little stunned before he raised his hand and stroked Shisui's head and responded, "I will be stricter with my grandson. It doesn't matter. I will definitely try my best to meet your requirements, teacher." "Ha ha ha. Why do you still call me teacher if that's the case, grandpa?" Shisui's eyes were slightly red, and his cheeks were full of shame, but he still looked up at Sima Yi, eager to respond. "Ha ha ha, let's eat first, and after dinner, grandpa will continue to teach you." "Yes." Shisui happily carried a lot of things back to the room and lit a fire. "Grandpa, are you going to visit Konoha alone today?" Shisui felt the weight of the things in his hand and was a little confused. Although Sima Yi was also a ninja, at this age, who came with me. He sent me to the door and left, and took the remaining bottle of wine. Sima Yi smiled. Hui thought he didn't see it. In fact, he knew it in his heart, but Shisui was not old enough to drink, so he let him go. Brother Hui, sure enough, Shisui felt a little jealous. He also wanted to go shopping with his grandfather, but unfortunately he had to go with Ichi. "Eat it while it's hot. We still need to hire some servants in the future. We must pay attention to some things." Now that he recognized this grandson, Sima Yi's tone became more serious. "Yes, grandpa, but if we hire servants, will it attract those people with ulterior motives? I'm worried that they will hurt you." Shisui agreed, but he didn't just agree. Instead, he raised his doubts. Sima Yi nodded with satisfaction and said, "There are many eyes and many people, and they can place people to monitor you. You can also use these people to do other things. It depends on whose means are more clever." In terms of means, Shisui unconditionally believed in Sima Yi and stopped worrying immediately. Besides, recruiting servants has another purpose besides helping you deal with chores. "Does grandpa also want to train people like Danzo?" Sima Yi was silent. He did want to, but he really didn't have the conditions now. "The time is not right yet. You must not rush to train people. Before you start the rebellion, any behavior that may affect the trust of the Hokage is not advisable. You must have a long-term vision and must not destroy the future of Uchiha because of a momentary rush." Sima Yi's expression was unprecedentedly serious. Shisui immediately understood that this must be an important issue involving the survival of the entire Uchiha. He nodded heavily. "Grandpa, I understand. Just for now, recruiting servants is also a good opportunity for you to win the hearts of the people," Sima Yi said and shook his head slowly. "My identity in Uchiha is also a ninja. I left for only a year and no one cared about the house collapse. You can imagine the life of the ordinary clan members below. Although the Uchiha clan is powerful, it is not all ninjas. Ordinary people still account for the majority. The exclusion of the village is everywhere, and the chief of the Fugaku clan also has his difficulties." Shisui also sighed. It is difficult for a senior ninja like Hua to enjoy a barbecue on weekdays, let alone ordinary clan members. This is not a problem, success or failure is just a result, but his purpose as the clan leader should not be here. What does Grandpa mean by this? Shisui frowned and thought for a moment without any results. When facing foreign enemies, his first priority should be to integrate the internal forces and stabilize the morale of the army. It is not important that he cannot solve the problems of his subordinates. What is important is that he has the intention to solve the problems and that the people below believe that he wants to solve the problems. Shisui's eyes lit up and he immediately reacted, winning over the people's hearts. Yes, prestige and reputation are accumulated little by little, and we must not miss the opportunity. Shisui's eyes flickered, but he did not hesitate. His eyes were always firm. I know, Grandpa, for Konoha, for Uchiha, even if this would offend the chief of the Fugaku clan, since he made the decision that night, he has been determined to wipe out everything. For Konoha, for Uchiha, it's good that you have such determination, but there are still matters for Konoha and Uchiha to deal with. So leave these trivial matters to me. Then I'll leave it to you, Grandpa. Shisui nodded with a smile, but soon he couldn't smile anymore. There is one more thing. It's about the police department. Sima Yi immediately told Shisui what he had seen and heard today, and Shisui's smile collapsed immediately. If it was in the past, he would think that this was caused by the clan members' rough methods and inability to understand each other with the villagers. But now the third generation also often asks the police department to understand each other with the villagers. But I know that the clan leader has given in. These small problems will not come forward unless there are villagers reporting them. But now the 8th generation uncle and Tuo are just doing things according to the rules, and the villagers are still talking about it. Shisui sighed and said, since the establishment of the police department, such things have happened from time to time. Is it only if we give up the police department that we can avoid this problem? Or, Grandpa, do you have any way to make the villagers understand the police department? Faced with this question, Sima Yi shook his head decisively. As long as Uchiha is in the police department, there will inevitably be conflicts with the villagers, and according to the current situation, the Konoha high level will not allow Uchiha to give up the police department. Shisui's eyes were dim, but in fact he already had the answer in his heart. But Sima Yi's words made him more convinced. But Sima Yi changed the subject and told a story. When I was young, I worked under Cao Gong. This man was a hero of the time. One day, he led his troops outside and was short of food and grass. The warehouse official Wang who went to report it. Sima Yi spoke softly and told Zishui about Cao Cao using Wang Hu's head to appease the army. Zishui frowned and cursed subconsciously. This man is despicable. It was obviously him who asked Wang Hu to reduce the rations and cause the army to resent, but then he pushed the blame to others. Such behavior. Zishui stopped cursing and suddenly fell silent. He lowered his head and his eyes moved slightly. Seeing this, Sima Yi slowly stood up with a smile on his face. Think carefully and rest early. After saying that, he turned and left, leaving Zishui alone looking at the barbecue in deep thought. Chapter 32 Historical Materials and Documents. The next morning, Shisui took the books about the family's past from the hands of the chief of the Fugaku clan. Oh, there are so many of them. The Uchiha clan still has some advantages. Sima Yi was a little surprised when he saw the family history piled up in front of him. Even a studious person like Shisui didn't read the family history. In this atmosphere, the Uchiha clan actually had so many records. Shisui smiled innocently. This was the first time he heard Sima Yi praise the Uchiha clan so seriously, but Sima Yi soon regretted it. He picked up a book and started flipping through it, and saw, today I accepted an assassination mission, but I didn't expect that the other party actually hired people from the Senju clan for protection. I was defeated and fled to another place. This is a shame for the Uchiha clan. I must go back and summon my clan members to kill again. Today I called the elders of the family to work together. The people of the Senju clan were really no match. We successfully killed the target of the mission, but it was a pity that the Senju people ran away. Humphrey, Amiran dares to confront my Uchiha clan. You are lucky to run fast. I am not in a good mood today. When I was on duty, I met that Senju again. This time he also called the elders of the clan. Damn, evil Senju clan. Sima Yi turned page after page with an expressionless face. His movements became faster and faster, and then he changed one book after another in disbelief. Today, the clan was attacked. The Uzumaki clan dared to attack us together with the Senju clan. Fortunately, the clan leader returned to the clan in time. The damn Senju and Uzumaki will destroy you sooner or later. Today. After a long time, Sima Yi put down the book and sighed. Is this history? There is no chronology, no detailed biographies, and not even many important things, except for a few. They are all trivial matters. Even those major events that affect the survival of the family are not recorded in detail. There are only simple wins and losses, and then long curses. Even the number of skipping stones is recorded. What's the point of reading this kind of clan history? If he leaves his name, I will definitely punish him with 80 strokes of the cane. Shisui's neck shrank, and he slowly lowered his head, not daring to ask more questions. After speaking, Sima Yi sighed again. Forget it. It's better to have it than not. I will review my studies here in the next few days. Please help me find the relevant records of each clan and the documents when Konoha was founded as detailed as possible. I need to learn more. Okay, Grandpa. Then I will go to the third generation to do my duty first. If you need anything, please tell me when you come back in the evening. Go. Be cautious in everything, and don't let him suspect anything. Yes. After Shisui left, Sima Yi put down his pen and ink and took another look at the piled books. These books are useless. It seems that I have to compile them myself. The biggest purpose of reading history is to learn lessons and avoid repeating the same mistakes. But it is obvious that the Uchiha clan does not have such awareness. The same mistakes can be repeated over and over again, and the 1,000-year inheritance has only enriched their military strength. Sima Yi flipped through one clan history after another, found the names of clan leaders from one period after another from a few words, sorted them out, and selected important deeds from the chaotic records to enrich and analyze them. However, such work is undoubtedly complicated. In the following days, Sima Yi read and revised history during the day, and gave lectures to Shisui in the evening after get-off work. At night, he had to study the sealing technique, and occasionally he had to take time to teach Hu. Busy days always pass quickly. After 7 consecutive days, Sima Yi barely completed the preliminary preparations. In the evening of this day, Shisui came back with dinner. He looked at the history book written by Sima Yi himself and was amazed. Grandpa, has the book been compiled? This is just a summary. The details have not been written yet. There are still some secrets about the Uchiha clan that have not been recorded in it. Shisui nodded and carefully opened it, savoring it carefully. In the 7th year of Ukinage's, the Senju clan repeatedly violated the border and harassed the mines. The clan leader personally raised 200 clan soldiers and won the battle. Uchiha 7 years? Shisui had never heard of this name, and it was even more impossible for him to know what happened in the 7th year after he became the clan leader. However, Shisui rarely knew the family history, and he didn't care. In the 12th year of Uchiha, the Senju clan repeatedly obstructed the family's missions. The emperor was angry and mobilized all the clan soldiers to attack. The Uzumaki was despicable and took advantage of the situation to launch a sneak attack. The family suffered heavy losses. Although time has passed, they dare not move out in full force. As soon as Shisui read the second paragraph, he asked curiously, Grandpa, why did you jump directly from 7 years to 12 years? What about the years in between? Sima Yi stopped writing and glanced at the book on the ground. His face was full of helplessness. It's rare to find the name. It is said that the Uchiha has a 1,000-year heritage, but even if these books are pieced together, they are less than 100 years. I don't know how many gaps there are in the middle. Shisui smiled awkwardly, then put the book down and spread out a scroll. With a bang, a wisp of white smoke and a large number of books appeared. Grandpa, here are the records of the various tribes you want, as well as the relevant documents of the various departments drafted by the 2nd generation. In addition, I have asked someone to go to the capital to send the history of each country, and it will be delivered soon. Not bad, put it aside for now, I will sort it out slowly tomorrow. Sima Yi took the dinner prepared by Shisui. I have been busy compiling books these days, but I forgot to recruit some servants. Grandpa, just make the decision on these matters. By the way, here are the savings I have made over the years, and I will give them to you for safekeeping. Shisui took out another scroll and handed it to Sima Yi. Sima Yi did not refuse. Whether it was compiling books or recruiting servants, or the subsequent actions and family operations, money was needed. Tomorrow you can take the book to find some elders to identify. Maybe they know something. The framework has been completed, and he can continue to improve the content after roughly determining the order of these clan leaders. As for the lack of historical materials to fill in, it is even less of a problem. There is nothing here, and there is nothing there. Changing a name and putting on a layer of skin is no psychological pressure for Sima Yi. Okay, then, Grandpa, please eat something and rest early. Knowing that Sima Yi was very busy, Shisui did not pester him to continue teaching, but helped him clean up the table and left. After another 3 days, Sima Yi finally had time to put aside the book editing and read the documents left when Konoha was founded. For a full 5 hours, Sima Yi read from morning to afternoon. When he put down the last document, he was silent, and he slowly raised his head until Shisui pushed the door open. Grandpa. Shisui was holding the food and was stunned when he saw this. Sima Yi seemed to have this expression every time he encountered something strange. You came at the right time. Have you read these documents? Have you read the documents related to Uchiha? Shisui shook his head. Has anyone in the clan read it? Shisui pondered for a moment, then shook his head. Have you learned about the detailed powers of the police department? Shisui continued to shake his head, knowing nothing about the question. Sima Yi took a deep breath and immediately stood up to take the food, saying expressionlessly, "You just watch here, and leave when you're done." After that, he turned and left without looking back, leaving Shisui alone standing there in a daze. After a long time, Shisui's eyes widened. I slept all afternoon today, and when I woke up, I felt weak all over, as if I was possessed by a ghost, but also very comfortable. I wonder if you have the same feeling. Chapter 33 The Beggar with the Golden Bowl. September 17, 2024. Chapter 33 The Beggar with the Golden Bowl. Please vote tilde. Beads of sweat slid down Shisui's forehead. He just came to deliver a meal and couldn't understand why Sima Yi was suddenly angry. Looking at the thick stack of documents in front of him, Shisui's scalp tingled, but he didn't dare to refuse at all. So he had to bite the bullet and sit down to read it carefully. He read it all night, until the next morning. Sima Yi pushed the door open with the breakfast he bought and saw Shisui with messy hair. What are you doing? You are a ninja after all. You are just reading some documents. I don't ask you to handle government affairs. How come you become so haggard in one night? Sima Yi looked surprised. Shisui's behavior was really ugly. He supported his chin with one hand and grabbed his hair with one hand. His expression was a little ferocious. Grandpa, did the Nidaime deliberately try to trick Madara's ancestors? The Sandaime and Danzo are so wary of us. It must be the Nidaime's instruction. Otherwise how could someone like him hand over the police department to us? Seeing Sima Yi coming in, Shisui quickly stood up, and the documents in his hand had been wrinkled by him. You came to this conclusion after reading it all night? Sima Yi's tone was flat. Shisui was not wrong, but his focus was wrong. This conclusion was meaningless for the moment. Shisui was stunned. He lowered his head to look at the documents again, and when he was about to say something, Sima Yi said, "Sit down, eat something first." As he said that, he took the documents from Shisui's hands. As he expected, it was the part about the interests and division of power and responsibilities of each clan drafted by the Nidaime. The police department is a job that offends people, and the Uchiha clan has a strong personality. Even if there is no suspicion from the top leaders, they will be rejected by Konoha in the long run. Isn't it the second generation who did bad things? It's a pity that the ancestor Madara trusted them so much. The records about Uchiha Madara were not detailed, and Sima Yi was not good at commenting. He just continued, although the second generation was petty, he could be said to have some means. As for the Uchiha, He was a beggar with a golden bowl. Beggar with a golden bowl? Shisui was puzzled and asked hurriedly. The funding of the police department has been cut again and again since the third generation, and I recently heard that the daimyo also intends to reduce the funding. The days of the village will only become more difficult in the future. I am afraid that the Jonin meeting will propose to cut the funding of the police department again before the new year. How can this be considered a golden bowl? Take a closer look at this. What do you feel? Sima Yi did not respond immediately, but picked out a copy from the document and handed it to Shisui. Shisui took it and looked at it. This is the scope of the power and responsibilities of the police department. Because of Sima Yi's inquiry yesterday, he had read it several times at night. The most important of them are the following 4 points. The full name of the police department is the Konoha Guard Department, which is directly under the jurisdiction of the Hokage. Its head is inherited by the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. In order to protect the internal stability of Konoha, the Hokage can recruit members on his own with funds allocated by the Hokage. The guard department can arrest anyone who affects the internal stability of Konoha without the consent of the Hokage. The guard department can judge the guilt of the arrested person without the interference of the Hokage. The guard department can amend the Konoha law according to the current situation of Konoha to maintain the internal stability of Konoha. After reading these 4 points, even Sima Yi couldn't tell whether the second generation was narrow-minded. He could leave the police department to pit Uchiha and teach 4 apprentices who rejected Uchiha, but he gave Uchiha so much power. He originally thought that Uchiha was just a wealthy family that had come out, but now it is clear that it is a king of a different surname. But Shisui was confused. He had been in Konoha for so long, and he still knew what the police department was like. What power could a department that was bullied from both sides have? He stared at the document again and again, but still couldn't understand what Sima Yi meant. You don't have a keen sense of power. No wonder the Uchiha clan leaders of all generations have such power and have managed the Uchiha clan to this point. Sima Yi sighed, and vaguely guessed the second generation's thoughts. The other party was sure that the Uchiha clan would not use it. Such a dangerous move happened to be the right bet. Power? Grandpa, do you mean that the power of the security department is very big? Seeing Sima Yi's reminder, Shisui hurriedly re-examined. More than big, the security department is completely in the hands of the Uchiha clan. It can be said that the Uchiha clan is the only clan that can openly control the army except the Hokage. I understand. The Hokage is needless to say. Danzo also has the confidence to repeatedly target us because he controls the route. Shisui felt that he understood that if someone controls someone, there is power. However, what greeted him was not praise, but Sima Yi's disappointed eyes. People like Danzo are just rats in the gutter. They can still stir up trouble by using the title of Hokage. They are not presentable and are just fireflies compared to the power of Uchiha. Why do they attract your attention so much? Shisui lowered his head, feeling stupid. It seemed like that, but he still felt that Danzo was always suppressing Uchiha. You have to understand that there is a world of difference between the army under fair control and those secret dead soldiers. The route has only 4 classes and 17 people. Of course, with Danzo's personality, there are definitely more than that. But no matter how many people he secretly cultivated, they are just dependent on the Hokage and cannot be seen in the light. As long as he does not have the ability to subvert everything, the Hokage can make him lose everything with a piece of paper. Sima Yi deeply understood this, but did not say much. But the guard department is different. Your power comes from your own and from justice. The Hokage will never dare to interfere in the internal affairs of the guard department easily, otherwise it will cause civil unrest. Konoha Ninja Clan? Shisui looked up. He seemed to have heard this lesson before. Yes, with the power of the Hokage, it is a crushing blow to deal with the Uchiha clan or any other clan, but if it touches the interests of the entire Konoha clan, even the Hokage must give in. You must remember this. This is the confidence and limit for our internal reform in the future. I understand, Grandpa. Sima Yi nodded, looked at the last 3 points and couldn't help but smile. As for the last 3 points, they are the golden bowls given to the Uchiha clan by the second generation. If nothing unexpected happens, we will be able to use them soon. You must memorize them firmly and wait for the right time. I will explain them to you one by one. It's not that Sima Yi deliberately kept it a secret, but time is limited. Shisui still has to go on duty, and he also has to recruit servants. Okay. Shisui certainly wanted to listen, but after looking at the sky, he had to finish his breakfast in a hurry, and then packed up and prepared to leave. Just leave the things there. I'll deal with them later. Sima Yi took a look and said softly, Hee, thank you Grandpa. Oh, by the way, Grandpa should not be familiar with the people in the tribe. I will find time to come back to help you later. It's okay, I have already told Hui. He will come to help me later. No Hee, thank you for your monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. I am not picky, I want all kinds of tickets. Chapter 34 will definitely not be discovered. Uncle Yi, the great elder, agreed to Shisui's recruitment of servants, but the household registration was not given to me. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Hu arrived as promised. At this moment, he was no longer as loose as before. He was wearing a black tight combat uniform, matched with green Joan and chain mail, and his black short hair looked particularly energetic. It's a bit troublesome without a household registration. Recruiting servants is only the most secondary purpose. Accumulating reputation and obtaining a household registration list are the top priorities. Hearing Sima Yi sigh, who is rarely serious, suddenly smiled. Don't worry, although the great elder is unwilling to give it to me, I am Uchiha Hu, the captain of the 3rd detachment of the 1st division of the security department. Sima Yi smiled and cooperated. So, you have a way? Of course. Hu straightened his chest and took out a booklet from behind. If the great elder is unwilling to find someone else for me, can't I? Look, this is the booklet I got from the police department through Brother Tuo. Although I don't know if it is the same as the one in the hands of the great elder, I also flipped through it when I came here just now, and most of the clan members are on the booklet. Not bad. I didn't expect you to be so smart. Sima Yi took the booklet and nodded with satisfaction, and added, I'll take you to eat barbecue again in a few days when I have time. How about it? Hui heard this and said seriously, Uncle Yi, what are you talking about? I'm not helping you for barbecue, I'm doing this for Uchiha, for Konoha, and to thank you for teaching me the knowledge you usually teach me. Sima Yi took a deep look at Hui, nodded and said, it can be seen that you have learned a lot. Of course, I used the strategy you taught me to save Zhao from the enemy this time to successfully obtain the list. Oh no, it was stealing. Stealing? Sima Yi's hands trembled slightly, and he asked, no one found out, right? Of course not. How could that be? I am Uchiha Hu at the same time, in the residence of the Fugaku clan leader. Are you saying that the list kept in the guard department was stolen by Hu? The end of the year is approaching, and all matters inside and outside the clan need to be finalized by Uchiha Fugaku. After sending away the 1st and 2nd elders with great difficulty, he was interrupted by Uchiha Tuo, who suddenly came before he could take a break and talk to his 2 children. There's news from the 1st elder, who wanted to get the list from the 1st elder earlier, but was rejected. This morning, he approached the archives again. According to multiple tests, it was indeed Hui who took it away. Tuo, wearing the work clothes of the guard team, half knelt in a corridor to report. I remember that he just joined the guards recently. What does he want the list for? Could he be from the 3rd generation? According to the news from the elder, it seems that Shisui is planning to recruit some servants from the clan, so he asked him to collect the list. Uchiha Fugaku crossed his arms, and he thought for a moment with a blank expression and said, if that's all, let him be. Don't let other clan members know about this, especially the elder, whose behavior undoubtedly violated the clan rules, but considering Shisui and the elder, Uchiha Fugaku chose to turn a blind eye. Yes. Send it back. If you are discovered in the middle of the process, you must not conceal your intentions. Sima Yi put down his pen and sighed. He felt that Hui seemed a little unreliable. Facing Hui's stealing, he felt exhausted physically and mentally, so he had to pull him to record it by hand, and then quickly sent the original back. Hui's 3 shadow clones put down their pens at the same time, all with a look of resentment on their faces. If you had told me you wanted to copy a copy earlier, I wouldn't have stayed. Go quickly, you'll be indispensable for the barbecue. As for the homework, wait until you finish reading the summary of the new edition of the clan history first. He didn't dare to let Hoa do such delicate work again, otherwise he would be cheated sooner or later next time. Okay, Uncle Yi, but I have to say it again, I'm not here for the barbecue. After saying that, Hoa picked up the list and left in an instant. He was not a fool. From Sima Yi's attitude, he immediately understood the seriousness of stealing the list. But he also knew that Shisui was a man with great ambitions, and he was willing to take this risk to help them. Thinking of this, Hua's movements quickened, and in a moment he returned to the archives room of the security department. No one, I said. How could anyone find out? Seeing that there was no one around, Hua breathed a sigh of relief, and his face was immediately full of smiles again. He put the things back in their original places and locked the door of the archives room again, but at the moment the door was closed, a voice came from behind. Hua, scared, Hua's heart suddenly contracted, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He slowly turned around and saw a man with his arms folded across his chest, looking at him coldly. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would still not have noticed that there was a person standing behind him. Brother Tai Tai Hua, what are you doing here? The man was Uchiha Tai Hua. He looked at Hua, then at the archives room, and asked calmly, I heard that Konoha has been unstable recently, so, Hua said, and suddenly remembered Sima Yi's instructions. He hesitated for a moment and was about to answer truthfully, but heard Tai Hua nodded and said, it's indeed not stable recently. Don't stay here too long, go patrol the streets. Uchiha doesn't need salary thieves. Tai Hua turned and left after he finished speaking, leaving Hua alone in a daze. It took a long time for him to breathe a sigh of relief. I said we wouldn't be discovered. On the other side, Sima Yi quickly calmed down after Hua left. Although Hua's recklessness made him a little helpless, it was not enough to make him panic. After a simple sorting, he compared the military rosters left behind and selected 13 people from the 2 rosters, including 3 cooks, 6 attendants, and 4 maids. After confirming the candidates, Sima Yi personally went to find the attendant candidates. 5 of the 6 were genin and none of them had opened their eyes, with only one exception. Be an attendant for Lord Shisui. Me? Outside a courtyard, Uchiha Kinka looked at the familiar old man in front of him with a surprised face. Yes, Shisui is very optimistic about you. For the future of Uchiha and the village, he needs your strength. Sima Yi smiled and spoke in a very gentle tone. He checked carefully and found that the boy in front of him had opened the double Magatama Sharingan at the age of 14, and was promoted to Chunin early, with excellent talent. Of course, the most important thing is that the other party is a close relative of Uchiha Taika, the captain of the first squad of the guard team, and he highly respects Shisui. Really? Lord Shisui actually needs my power. Jin Huo's eyes lit up slightly. The Uchiha clan has always worshipped the strong, as long as they can be convinced by their strength. Even the clan members who have opened the Sharingan can put aside their pride and follow them. Of course, Shisui needs the strength of every Uchiha. If you are willing, he will take the time to personally guide you in your practice. Please let me follow Lord Shisui. Some nouns in this chapter have been modified. The cook has not been moved, the servant has been changed to a maid, and the guard has been changed to a servant. In fact, I can't find any suitable ones for these. My brain is empty. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Uchiha Hideki. Under the dual temptation of Shisui's reputation and high monthly salary, the other 5 agreed to the job without hesitation. After all, although they are Uchiha people, they are just ordinary genin. Such a good thing is rare. Here is the information of the other few people. You will act separately and invite them to work for me at Shisui's residence. Sima Yi felt much more relaxed when he returned to Shisui's residence with the 6 people. He would not do such a small thing himself if he could assign it to the servants. After all, how can you do everything yourself for long? Uchiha Chinatsu? Huh? Isn't this Yingshu's grandmother? After receiving the information, Jin Huo immediately exclaimed with a puzzled look on his face. Yingshu's grandmother is just an ordinary person, not a ninja. It seems that she can't do the work of a servant, right? Sima Yi was not surprised to have Jin Huo's acquaintance, because the man named Uchiha Yingshu was Jin Huo's comrade in arms. However, his experience was much more miserable than Jin Huo. Just invite him to come and cook for Shisui. The work of the attendants will only be done by the 6 of you. Is that so? That's great. I'll go find Grandma Chiharu right now. She will definitely agree. Jin Huo was delighted and immediately jumped over the wall and ran towards the edge of the clan land. The other 5 people did not hesitate. This was their first mission as attendants. Everyone was very energetic and set off at full speed. Sima Yi nodded with satisfaction and went to the corridor to take out a book and read quietly. On the other side, Jin Huo quickly arrived at the edge of the clan land, outside Uchiha Chiharu's house. It was a simple wooden house with an open wooden door. Standing at the door was a boy who looked about 10 years old. The boy wore a forehead protector and stared at the front with a pair of single Magatama Sharingan. At this moment, he was throwing shurikens at an old tree. 3 shurikens with oily luster flew out of his hands, turned slightly in the air, and hit the target hanging on the tree. The shurikens hit the target with a thud. The boy looked at the result in front of him but did not show any joy. He walked forward calmly and quickly retracted the shuriken. When he turned around and saw Jin Huo, he was stunned. "Brother Jin Huo, why are you here?" Yingshu, I came." Jin Huo's lips moved. He looked at Yingshu with mixed feelings. Just as he was about to speak, there was a sudden noise from the other side of the house. Looking back, he saw an old woman leaning against the door frame and sticking her head out. The old woman had a little sadness on her face. When she saw it was Jin Huo, she smiled. "It's Jin Huo. You guys chat. Grandma will come back to cook for you later." As she said that, she walked past the 2 of them and walked out with a bamboo basket on her back. The basket contained several pairs of cotton shoes and more than 10 pairs of cloth shoes. "Wait a minute, Grandma Chinatsu. I'm not looking for Yingshu. I'm here to tell you something." Jin Huo hurriedly stepped forward to stop her, and then told her about Shisui's need for a cook. "I can only cook some common dishes. Will Lord Shisui be able to eat them?" At this time, Shisui's reputation in the Uchiha clan was no less than that of the former White Fang. Even for marginal people like Uchiha Chinatsu, he was well known and awed. "It doesn't matter." This is what Lord Shisui personally told him. He doesn't care about this. As long as he has a hot meal after completing the mission, it's fine. Although Sima Yi didn't explain it this way, as a ninja, Jin Huo guessed that Shisui didn't care about the desire for food. Otherwise he wouldn't have invited Uchiha Chinatsu. "And if Grandma goes there," Jin Huo suddenly lowered his voice and advised, "we can try to see if we can bring Yingshu there." At that time, Yingshu may have the opportunity to get guidance from Lord Shisui. The improvement of strength means the hope of survival. After losing his son and grandson in succession, Uchiha Chinatsu is particularly sensitive to this. She nodded excitedly and said, "I will try my best." "Jin Huo, you must help Grandma." Jin Huo was nervous, but looking at Uchiha Chinatsu's expression, he nodded heavily. Yingshu stood quietly by the side. He was grateful in his heart, not because he might have a chance to get guidance from Shisui, but because his grandma could relax a little. Because even if he was just a cook, Sima Yi still offered a high monthly salary of 20,000 taels, which might take Uchiha Chinatsu 3 months to earn. "Then I will go back and report first. Grandma, take some tools and go there at noon." "Okay, Grandma will prepare it right away." After Jin Huo gave some instructions, he said hello to Yingshu and left first. After leaving, he felt his scalp tingling. When he returned to Shisui's mansion, he knocked on the door in a proper manner. After knocking 3 times in a row, he slowly pushed the door open. He walked through the front yard and came to the corridor nervously. Sima Yi was flipping through a book with his back to him. He didn't turn his head when he heard the noise, but just smiled slightly. Grandpa Yi, seeing Sima Yi did not move, Jin Huo called out again, "Grandpa Yi, I have already dealt with Grandma Chixia's matter. Are there any other tasks?" Sima Yi seemed to have just heard it. He put down his book and pondered for a moment, then turned around and replied, Nothing. There is a training ground in the backyard. You can go there to practice for a while. Someone will bring you lunch. No. There is no rush for practice, Grandpa Yi. Do you really have no other tasks for me to complete? Ha ha ha. What? Do you have something to ask me? Knowing that the boy in front of him was not good at opening the topic, Sima Yi chuckled and helped. It's not a big deal. Jin Huo laughed awkwardly, and after a moment of hesitation, he blurted out, Grandma Chixia has a grandson, Yingshu, who is my comrade in arms. He has a good talent and opened the Sharingan at the age of 10. I wonder if we can give Yingshu a chance to let him come here as a servant. As Jin Huo spoke, his voice became smaller and smaller, and finally he slowly lowered his head. Sima Yi frowned slightly. He had gradually understood the conditions for Uchiha to open his eyes, which made it difficult for him to evaluate. Jin Huo quietly raised his head. Seeing Sima Yi frowning, his heart sank. He knelt down without hesitation, hitting the ground with his head, making a rumbling sound. Please, Grandpa Yi, Yingshu is a qualified ninja. If it were him, he would definitely do his best to fulfill his duties. Sima Yi was a little stunned. He was surprised that the relationship between the two could make Jin Huo do this. However, he still did not speak. He slowly stroked his beard and quietly looked at Jin Huo under the steps. After a long time, seeing that the other party still did not look up, a trace of satisfaction flashed in his eyes. It was Shisui's idea to recruit attendants. Originally, it was only because he saw that some ninjas in the clan had a difficult life that he did this. Your behavior makes me a little embarrassed. Jin Huo heard this and his heart was immediately dead. However, it was Shisui's idea after all. I can give you a chance. When he comes back tonight, you can ask him in person. As for whether it will succeed or not, I have no idea. Really? Thank you, Grandpa Yi. I went for a walk after dinner, and only remembered when I came back that I hadn't updated yet. Hey, why can't the writer's assistant write it himself? Chapter 36 Pension, September 17, 2024. Chapter 36 Pension. Please vote tilde. In addition to the 3 cooks, there are also 6 maids who are also ordinary people. 15 people gathered in the front yard. Sima Yi simply divided the management and let them do their own things. Among the servants, Jin Huo was the leader. Although he was the youngest, he was the strongest. The other 5 were very obedient. The kitchen was led by Uchiha Chinatsu, and the maids were led by Uchiha Snowflower. After everyone dispersed, Sima Yi looked at the information of the 2 extra maids with narrowed eyes. These 2 people were not sent by him to find, but came to recommend themselves after hearing the news. One of them was Uchiha Snowflower, and the other was Uchiha Plum Blossom. They were twins. Both of them were 14-year-old girls, with delicate looks and small family jades, and they were quite well behaved and proficient in housework. It is certain that both of them are members of the Uchiha clan and are not ninjas. But Sima Yi flipped through the list and he was sure that he did not see the names of these 2 people on the list in the morning. It's not recorded in the list of the guard department. I just don't know whether these 2 were sent by the great elder or the clan leader. Sima Yi thought for a moment and put it aside. At present, Shisui is young, so this matter is not urgent. In the evening, everyone waited anxiously for Shisui to return. Uchiha Chinatsu was the main one, and the 3 were waiting in the kitchen. They had prepared a large table of food. Although Sima Yi said at noon that the 3 had decent cooking skills, they were mainly serving Shisui after all, so they still couldn't calm down. Such a good job is too rare for them. Master Shisui. While they were anxious, there was a slight movement in the front yard. Shisui was slightly stunned when he saw the 2 people jumping down from the gate, and then he realized that these should be the servants Sima Yi recruited. He had a gentle face, nodded slightly, and greeted everyone. After he left, the 2 were a little excited. Did you see that? Lord Shisui was just greeting us. As expected of Lord Shisui, he is such a gentle person. We are lucky to be here. They will definitely envy us. SHH, keep your voice down and stand guard. If Lord Shisui is unhappy, it will be my lifelong regret. Shisui's mouth twitched slightly when he entered the yard. He heard the conversation between the 2 clearly. The exaggerated conversation made him want to leave quickly. Lord Shisui, we are here to take off your armor. Just after passing the front yard, Shisui saw two young girls in the corridor. The two knelt on the wooden board to greet him. After saluting, they slowly stood up. They moved lightly to take off his armor and put on a warm kimono while Shisui looked uncomfortable. After putting on the kimono, the two followed Shisui closely until they were close to the door. Plum Blossoms then stopped at the door and slowly retreated. Snowflakes followed closely and sat behind Shisui obediently so that they could serve him at any time. Sima Yi saw the two's behavior. They were obviously well trained and not at the same level as the other four. This was why he chose Xuwa as the leader even though he knew there were problems with the two. Grandpa, this. Shisui felt uncomfortable. He thought he was just looking for someone to cook and clean the house, but he didn't expect there would be a personal maid. If you feel uncomfortable, I will kick them out tomorrow. Sima Yi looked at Shisui, smiling and very considerately suggested, no, since they have been recruited, let's do it. Shisui hurriedly stopped him. He remembered Sima Yi said that servants recruited to show favor in the clan were not good families. If they were kicked out because of his wrong words, he would feel more guilty. Well, let's have dinner first. There are still some matters that you need to deal with personally after dinner. As soon as Sima Yi finished speaking, Miwa, who had just left, brought the other people to bring the steaming dishes and divided them on both sides. Uchiha Shinutsu and the other three were also among them. They sat in a corner of the door and waited quietly. Outside the house, Jinhuo came over at some point and waited silently in the corridor. Although he felt a little uncomfortable with so many people sitting around him during the meal, Shisui paid more attention to the matter Sima Yi had just mentioned. He moved quickly and the food on the table was soon swept away. While Sima Yi, who was sitting opposite him, was still slow and elegant, savoring the food carefully. How does it taste? Are you satisfied? Seeing Shisui stop, Sima Yi also put down his chopsticks and asked. To be honest, the taste is average, nothing special, but Shisui didn't care about this. He nodded and said, it's okay. Hearing Shisui's evaluation, the three people near the door were obviously relieved. Since Shisui is satisfied, you three can stay without worry. The three people turned around after hearing the words, knelt down and bowed again. Thank you, Lord Shisui. It was not until then that Shisui vaguely guessed what the matter Sima Yi mentioned was referring to. Shisui straightened his chest and nodded solemnly, well, you guys go down to eat too. Sima Yi shook his head gently. Although Shisui's expression was serious, his words could not establish authority. But he was used to it and did not say anything. The three of them withdrew, and the maids around them also left, leaving only Snowflakes and Plum Blossoms. Jinhuo in the corridor seized the opportunity to quietly step forward and came to the door to salute. Jinhuo. Shisui was a little surprised. As far as he knew, Jinhuo was Tuo's nephew and his family was not bad. Why was he here? He looked at Sima Yi, but saw that Sima Yi's eyes were looking at his nose, and his nose was looking at his heart, as if he was sleeping and didn't feel anything. Are you used to it here? Yes. It is my honor to be Shisui's attendant. That's great, I will choose some time to guide you in your practice. Jinhuo's face was happy, and he immediately said, thank you, Shisui, but he regretted it after he said it, and quickly changed his words. Shisui is busy with things, how can I take up your time? Eh? Shisui raised his eyebrows, suspicious. Sima Yi's lesson was not in vain. He immediately noticed something was wrong. Jinhuo, is there something you want to tell me? Jinhuo's heart tightened. He wanted to lay the groundwork, but he was discovered immediately. He felt even more uneasy. Yes, I can't hide it from Shisui-sama. Then Jinhuo told him everything about Yingshu. Yingshu's father and brother died on the front line of Kirigakure, but the village and the clan did not fully pay the compensation, so his training was very difficult. But I can guarantee that Yingshu is definitely a qualified ninja. If Shisui-sama is willing to give him a chance, he will complete his duty even if it costs his life. Please, Shisui-sama. Boom! As soon as the voice fell, the terrifying chakra dissipated from Shisui, and the murderous intent that was so thick that it seemed to be tangible enveloped everyone. Xuwa, who was closest to him, collapsed to the ground, feeling as if her heart was tightly grasped by someone, and it was difficult to breathe. You mean, The village and the clan did not fully pay the compensation. Chapter 37 No Class Today, September 17, 2024. Chapter 37 No Class Today, please vote tilde. Shisui's tone was cold, and the three Magatama slowly turned. His face was as calm as water, but it was also full of turbulent waves, as if he was going to pick up a knife and kill someone in the next moment. Sima Yi was surprised. It was the first time he saw Shisui lose his composure like this. Fortunately, Shisui still had some rationality, and the killing intent did not affect him. Jinhuo crawled on the ground. He faced the terrifying killing intent and his breathing was stagnant. He had been on the battlefield for many years and had never faced such a strong man. Yes, the village and the tribe's pensions were not fully paid. Grandma Kaienxia only received 400,000 taels. This amount of money was not enough to help Yingshu continue to practice, so she sewed cloth shoes and sold them to make a living. Shisui closed his eyes and took a deep breath. After a long time, he restrained his breath and looked at Sima Yi opposite him. Sima Yi was very calm except for being a little surprised by Shisui's loss of composure. Even hearing such news did not touch him at all. My original intention of recruiting servants is for these clansmen with difficult family conditions. Since he meets the requirements, let him come with you tomorrow. The killing intent dissipated, allowing Jinhuo to breathe. Shisui's promise also made the huge stone in his heart finally fall. Thank you, Lord Shisui. Yingshu and I will definitely protect this place for Lord Shisui. In the name of Uchiha. Jinhuo was excited and his eyes were a little wet. Then the safety of this family will be in your hands from now on. Shisui's expression became gentle again, as if nothing had happened. He said softly, which made Jinhuo even more excited. Yes, after Jinhuo left, Xua and Miwa also retreated to prepare a bath for Shisui. Grandpa, there were only two people left in the hall. Shisui's voice became choked, unable to hide the grief in his heart. He lowered his head, and the tears fell on the back of his hand, bringing a hint of warmth. He was angry, painful, guilty, and even murderous and aggrieved. He couldn't understand why it came to this. Sima Yi stood up and walked in front of Shisui, stroking his short hair and sighing softly. You can cry, I will help you solve your problems, but if they cry, who can they turn to? A sigh pierced Shisui's heart like a steel knife, making it difficult for him to control himself. He lowered his head and trembled slightly, and it took a long time for him to calm down. Grandpa, you are right. They have nowhere to cry. I must be their support. He didn't expect that those who he longed to protect, those who followed him to protect Konoha, had always been ignored by him. Only virtue and morality can convince others. Sima Yi stroked his long beard, stood up, sighed softly, and turned to leave. No class today. Have a good rest. No class? Shisui looked at Sima Yi's back and clenched his fists. He personally experienced the other party's good intentions. There are some things that he will always have some unrealistic fantasies if he doesn't see them with his own eyes. This is true for the third generation, and the same is true for Uchiha. Master Shisui, the bath water is ready. Please take a bath. While he was thinking, Xua Miwa and the others came slowly and knelt quietly outside the door. Shisui stood up and did not refuse. Late at night, at the root camp, Danzo looked at this year's financial report and the notice of budget cuts for the next year obtained from the third Hokage and became furious. Damn it, how can the Uchiha be contained without the root? Who will protect Konoha without the root? The underground secret room was silent, and his roar did not receive any response. After a long time, he tore up the report and read the various experimental reports and the results of the surveillance of the Uchiha clan as usual. Suddenly, a familiar name came into view. Did Uchiha Shisui recruit some servants today? With Uchiha Shisui's reputation and status, he could naturally recruit servants, but Danzo looked at the report in his hand with his eyes slightly lowered. He has been alone for so many years. Why does he suddenly want to recruit servants? Go check what happened to him. For a dangerous person like Uchiha Shisui, any movement is enough to arouse his vigilance. The order was issued, and a figure disappeared silently. In just over 10 minutes, a piece of information was delivered to Danzo. Uchiha Yi, 52 years old, a genin, has not awakened the Sharingan. He has never been married, has no children, and has been alone for many years. Only Uchiha is his former comrade in arms, and the two occasionally come into contact. He participated in the Second and Third Ninja World Wars and survived both times. His house was blown down by the wind, and he is now temporarily living in Uchiha Shisui's house. The information also included a photo of Uchiha Yi, and just one look at it made Danzo feel a little uncomfortable. HMPH. He's just a genin, and he hasn't opened his Sharingan yet even though he's over 50 years old. He looks like a piece of trash with a strange appearance. This kind of person actually survived the ninja war twice. The Uchiha people are indeed sinister and cunning. As he said that, Danzo threw aside the information about Uchiha Yi and ordered, "Keep an eye on Uchiha Shisui and that old man. If they make any moves, notify me immediately." Thinking of his guess, Danzo couldn't help but reveal a sinister smile at the corner of his mouth. Yes, the next day, Shisui endured the discomfort and put on his armor, washed and had his meals with the help of the Snow Sisters. "Grandpa, I'm leaving first." After breakfast, Shisui said hello and left. The work of the Anbu has been increasing recently, and he can't come back even at noon. Sima Yi is fine, but Kinkade and Yingshu, who came early in the morning, feel very sorry. "I can only see Master Shisui at night. How can I practice? I haven't had time to thank Master Shisui in person. I will regret it for the rest of my life." Listening to the two people's exaggerated talk, Sima Yi hurriedly interrupted. "Giant Huo arranged people to patrol. You two can take turns to practice in the backyard when you have time. There are things you need." Giant Huo and Yingshu are still young, and they have opened the Sharingan. Sima Yi intends to train them. The two were grateful when they heard it, and immediately half knelt and saluted, replying, "Yes, Grandpa Yi." The two knew in their hearts that although it was Shisui who finally decided to keep Yingshu, they would have no chance without the other party's help. Sima Yi nodded and returned to the study. Everything was running in an orderly manner until noon, when an uninvited guest came outside the mansion. "Stop!" Outside the courtyard gate, Jin Huo looked at the familiar tribesman in front of him with a stern face and shouted. The visitor was not surprised to see Jin Huo. He took out a letter from his arms and said, "This is a handwritten letter from the Great Elder. Please pass it to Lord Shisui." After that, he handed the letter to Jin Huo and left in an instant. "Hey, wait a minute." Jin Huo raised his hand, but the person had already left. He had to take the letter to the study. "Grandpa Yi, the Great Elder just sent someone to deliver this letter, saying that it was to be given to Lord Shisui." "The letter from the Great Elder?" Sima Yi's eyes moved slightly, but after taking the letter, he did not check it but put it aside. He said calmly, "Since it is for Shisui, put it here and wait for him to come back. In the future, remember to arrange people to keep an eye on the study at all times and don't let other people go in and out of here." "Don't worry, Grandpa Yi. I will keep an eye on this place." "Well, go down." "Yes." After Jin Huo left, Sima Yi looked at the envelope on the table and thought for a moment. It seems something has happened. Chapter 38 Annual Meeting Dispute. As if to confirm Sima Yi's guess, in the evening, Jin Huo came again to report just after Shisui returned. "Master Shisui, the chief of the Fugaku clan sent someone to discuss important matters and is waiting outside the courtyard." Jin Huo's expression was a little awkward when he reported. Although he tried his best to hide it, Sima Yi still saw the clue. The chief of the Fugaku clan, Shisui, was puzzled, and subconsciously glanced at Sima Yi. Seeing that the other party nodded calmly, he responded, "Please let him in." "Yes." Xua and the other person also stood up and took the mat to prepare tea. In a short while, Jin Huo led two people into the hall. The two people were Uchiha Tuo with a sullen face and Uchiha Hu with a straight chest and head. Jin Huo led the people and then quietly left with his head tilted. Tuo snorted coldly at the sight of this and sat on the mat at Shisui's invitation. "I'll leave my nephew to Shisui-sama to take care of him." Tuo lowered his head, although he was a little surprised that Jin Huo secretly came to Shisui's house to be a guard. The other party was Uchiha Shisui after all, the current number one of the Uchiha clan, so it was not shameful. "Jin Huo will be a qualified ninja." Shisui smiled and praised him generously. which made Tyuo feel much better. I heard from Jinhuo that it was the chief of the Fugaku clan who asked the two of you to come to me. I wonder what it is? Shisui asked directly without much greeting. Sima Yi pretended to be asleep, but secretly paid attention to Shisui's every move. Seeing this, he could not help but shake his head slowly. Hui sat upright, as if it had nothing to do with him, and remained silent. It's about this year's annual meeting. Tyuo opened his mouth and slowly explained the reason. As a 1,000-year-old family, the Uchiha clan has its own traditions. Every new year, a large ceremony is held at the Nan River. The clan members will line up to pray at the shrine, and there will be various activities during the period. Of course, it is also inevitable that the family meeting, as has been the custom in recent years, curses the Konoha high-level officials. However, due to the outbreak of the Nine Tails Rebellion last year, they were forced to move to the outskirts of Konoha, and because of the continuation of the war, a large number of clan members rushed to the front line, resulting in all the ceremonies last year being simple. Now that the war is over, the Uchiha clan has made a lot of contributions in the war, and some people in the clan have proposed to restore the annual meeting. The elder means that the annual meeting represents the 1,000-year tradition of our Uchiha clan. Last year was just an exception. This year, we must not rush it again, otherwise other clans will despise us. But the second elder and his friends think that the war has just stopped and the village has not yet recovered. If we hold a big meeting, the impact will be too great, and the situation of the family is not very good. Both sides send people to the clan leader's house to persuade him almost every day. The clan leader is a little embarrassed, so let me ask your opinion. Not only is it not very good, why hold an annual meeting when the pension cannot be paid? Shisui sighed in his heart, and he was more inclined to the opinion of the second elder. But when the words came to his lips, he saw Sima Yi, who had not moved, suddenly picked up the teacup. Shisui sighed and responded, I haven't thought about this question. Can we ask clan leader Fugaku to hold a clan meeting to discuss it? Clan meeting? Tyuo couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard this. Once a clan meeting is held, the result is inevitable. The clan meeting may take some time. The Jonin meeting will be held in a few days. The clan leader doesn't have the energy to hold a clan meeting to discuss this matter at this time. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't give an answer at the moment. Please help me reply to the clan leader. I need to think about it carefully. Yes, I'm sorry to waste your time. I will convey your meaning to clan leader Fugaku. Goodbye. Tyuo didn't entangle. After getting the answer, he stood up and left. Hui followed closely behind, and didn't say a word from beginning to end. After the two left, Sima Yi and Shisui had dinner and came to the study. Grandpa, just now. As soon as he entered the study, Shisui couldn't wait to ask, but was interrupted by Sima Yi. He took out a letter from the table and said, This is the letter sent by the great elder during the day. You can open it first. Shisui took it and was a little confused when he saw that the letter was not opened yet. I'm not here during the day. You can just open the letter. You don't have to wait for me. As he said that, he opened it in front of Sima Yi and read it. If Sima Yi was alone, he could open it, but since Jinhuo was beside him, he couldn't touch the letter. However, seeing that Shisui was reading it carefully, Sima Yi didn't say anything. He would teach these details one by one in the future. How is it? What about the annual meeting? Shisui put down the letter and handed it to Sima Yi, with a puzzled expression. I don't seem to have a close relationship with the great elder. Why did he directly ask me to help him in the letter? Even Fugaku only sent someone to ask for his opinion. But the great elder only briefly described the benefits of the annual meeting in the letter, and then asked him to support the annual meeting. Sima Yi took the letter and glanced at it before smiling. He helped you once in the past when we returned to the army, and now he wants you to return the favor. Shisui only realized what was happening when he heard it, and then he couldn't help but frown. But the family's situation is really not very good. If we hold the annual meeting on the same scale as before, it will probably cost a lot. We might as well use the money to make up for the pension. Shisui became even more annoyed as he spoke, and he became more and more resistant to the annual meeting. Sima Yi did not directly dissuade him, but asked, if you speak out to stop it, can the annual meeting be cancelled? Even if I ask, Given the character of the elder, he will definitely find a way to hold a clan meeting, and given the character of the clan members. Shisui covered his forehead with a helpless look. Even if the clan leader and I oppose it together, I'm afraid the clan members will still agree to hold the annual meeting. This is the most troublesome part of the clan meeting for them. Anyone in the clan who has opened the three magatama can participate and speak, and the strength of each clan member who has opened the three magatama should not be underestimated. Their opinions are crucial, but they rarely understand the situation below. Therefore, in many cases, if the clan leader does not have overwhelming strength and prestige, the result of the clan meeting will not change according to the will of the clan leader and elders. Speaking of clan meetings, even Sima Yi, who has lived for so many years, still feels outrageous. With so many people discussing one thing, power cannot be concentrated, and it is impossible to accomplish anything. Since you can't stop it, why do you have to do such a disgusting thing? But, besides, holding an annual meeting actually has advantages and disadvantages. Your view is too one-sided. What's the benefit of such extravagance? Sima Yi shook the envelope in his hand and said, the benefits mentioned by the elder in the letter actually make sense. The Uchiha clan has suffered a series of blows and has been through wars for a long time. There has been a lot of resentment in the clan for a long time, and there are many dissatisfactions. This annual meeting can let them relax a little. Not only that, this large-scale event will also help to unite the clan members. But will it cause dissatisfaction among the villagers if it is held on such a large scale? Shisui asked with some concern. Ha ha ha, of course they will be dissatisfied. Not only will the villagers be dissatisfied, but the Konoha high-level officials will also be dissatisfied. Chapter 39 Be Bold. September 17, 2024. Chapter 39 Be Bolder. Please vote tilde. No. I must stop them. I must not let the third generation find a reason to continue suppressing the Uchiha, otherwise the Great Elder and others will definitely instigate the clan members. Shisui's face changed. He didn't expect that a family annual meeting would involve so much. However, it's not over yet. Sima Yi continued, weren't you curious about why I stopped you from expressing your opinion just now? Shisui nodded. He understood Sima Yi's meaning of serving tea to see off the guests, so he spoke vaguely. The clan leader sent someone not only to ask for your opinion. I'm afraid he wants to know more about your relationship with the Great Elder. The Great Elder is more radical, while the second elder is more conservative. Clan leader Fugaku has always remained neutral in clan meetings. However, he was the clan leader recognized and supported by the Great Elder, and he rarely quarreled with the Great Elder and others. There is no reason for him to test my relationship with the Great Elder, right? Neutral? Sima Yi chuckled, and then said, I'm afraid he is not neutral. Since he refused to help you last time, I have deliberately paid attention to you in the clan. You, the clan leader, should also be a conservative. In other words, you are more inclined to the opinion of the second elder. Of course, it is not ruled out that he is cautious and always guards against Konoha's high-level officials pretending to be so conservative. How could clan leader Fugaku be a conservative? He is Uchiha Fugaku, known as the Evil Eye, the clan leader of the Uchiha clan. Shisui's expression moved slightly, and he immediately recalled Fugaku's actions in several clan meetings. Before the Nine-Tails incident, he chose to support Minato Namikaze against all odds and persuaded several elders to give him a lot of support. After the Nine-Tails incident, he suppressed the dissatisfaction of the clan members and elders and agreed to the decision of the Konoha high level to relocate the clan. Later, he responded to the decision of the Konoha high level and sent a large number of clan members to the front line to support. There was only one slight difference, that is, the arrangement for him to enter the Anbu to inquire about the opinions of the Konoha high level was unanimously agreed by the clan elders and tacitly approved by the clan leader Fugaku. Shisui thought about it for a while and found that Fugaku should be a very opinionated person. However, when he thought about it again, he realized that it was not right. After the Nine-Tails incident, every decision made by Fugaku ignored the opinions of the clan members and chose to compromise with Konoha. But because Fugaku had successfully bet on Minato Namikaze before, the clan members chose to believe him despite their dissatisfaction. But this trust is limited after all. If Fugaku fails to respond to this trust, he will inevitably be retaliated by the clan members in the end. And now, there are signs of separation. He keeps compromising with the Konoha high-ups, and all his actions are actually inclined towards the conservatives represented by the second elder. It's just that the clan is now increasingly dissatisfied with the Konoha high-ups, so it's inconvenient for him to express his position in person, otherwise it will only backfire. So he wants to know what I think, or let me stop the clan members. Yes, but you can't stop the clan members, and you can't agree to the Great Elder's request. Shisui was stunned and didn't react for a while, and asked again, neither side agrees? Grandpa means that I should remain neutral? Sima Yi shook his head and explained, you can't stop the annual meeting, but you can't directly support the Great Elder either. Are you worried about Chief Fugaku? No, it's the third generation. Shisui frowned and fell into deep thought. Will supporting the Great Elder make the third generation suspicious of me? Yes. You know that the Great Elder has always had a tough attitude towards Konoha. If you get too close to him, it will inevitably make the third generation suspicious, which is very disadvantageous to you. If Denzo gets a hold of you, he may even act secretly. I see, then I'll burn the letter now. As he said that, Shisui was about to take action, but Sima Yi stopped him directly. No need to do that, just put the letter aside for now. If you don't want to pay attention to it, just pretend you don't know about it. But this letter may have other uses. Shisui's behavior was a bit stupid, but Sima Yi didn't get angry, but patiently taught him. Grandpa is right. In this case, why don't I give the letter directly to the clan leader? When he sees the letter, he will know that I don't have a close relationship with the Great Elder, and he will also understand my entanglement. Maybe he won't embarrass me at that time. Shisui thought for a moment and his eyes lit up, and he thought of a good idea. However, Sima Yi laughed after hearing it. You have ideas, but not enough. Why not be bolder? Bolder? Think about your identity. My identity? Uchiha Shisui. No, it's Anbu. A flash of inspiration came to Shisui, and his eyes suddenly widened. He seemed to have grasped something. He looked at Sima Yi in disbelief and said, Grandpa means to give the letter to the third generation? Ha ha ha. That's exactly what I mean. If it is given to the third generation, will they be detrimental to the Great Elder? Will they use it to suppress Uchiha? Not only not, they will also help the Great Elder. Sima Yi narrowed his eyes and explained carefully, the Uchiha annual meeting will inevitably cause dissatisfaction among the Konoha top leaders, but the third generation's dissatisfaction will not stop you. Not only that, he will also help you hold it smoothly. Jingbo defeated Duan Yuyan. Shisui immediately remembered a story that impressed him deeply. That's right, the bigger the Uchiha's actions are, the more attention they will attract, which is more in line with the interests of the third generation. Therefore, as long as you take the initiative to mention it, he will definitely agree. In this way, you not only avoid the third generation's suspicion by not having close contact with the Great Elder, but also express your loyalty by taking into account your identity as a spy. At the same time, you repay the Great Elder's favor, and the clan members will also know that it is you who asked the third generation to make the clan meeting go smoothly. Kill two birds with one stone. Shisui wanted to bow his head, and he was full of admiration in his heart. There is one more thing. Unexpectedly, Sima Yi did not stop. He stroked his long beard and looked at Shisui quietly with a smile on his face. Shisui knew that this was a test for him, and immediately fell into deep thought. Putting aside the Great Elder and the clan members, who else is there for the third generation? Uchiha Fugaku. It's Patriarch Fugaku. Grandpa, you just said that the Patriarch's behavior has always been inclined towards the Konoha high level. If the Konoha high level agrees to our holding of the annual meeting, the Patriarch will not have any objections, and there will be no more disagreements in the clan. That's right, you must remember that you should be calm when facing major events, and you must not act impulsively, and you must not easily get involved in fights, especially internal fights. A centipede is still alive even after death. For a big family like the Uchiha, enemies coming from outside are not to be feared. Only internal fighting will damage their morale and ruin their foundation. Now you are at the intersection of three parties. You must be cautious in every step and never take risks easily. Before Sima Yi came, he only felt a little confused. After Sima Yi came, he realized that there were so many dangers around him. I understand, Grandpa. I will be careful. I will send this letter to the third generation now. No hurry. Acting at night is easy to arouse suspicion. Take it with you when you are on duty tomorrow. Yes. Chapter 40. I saw the will of fire. The next day, in the Hokage building. Look, Hiruzen, this is the Uchiha you believe in. That old guy has correspondence with him. I'm afraid he is a spy planted by Uchiha next to you. He has long wanted to help Uchiha plan a coup. He is not trustworthy at all. Early in the morning, Danzo pushed open the door of the Hokage's office and slapped the report in his hand directly in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Speaking fiercely, the Sandai quickly put away the crystal ball, took 2 puffs of dry tobacco without raising his eyelids, and replied directly, I believe in Shisui. He will not betray Konoha, let alone do such a thing. Danzo knew about this kind of thing, so he must have a source of information. Danzo took a deep breath and was almost choked by the Sandai's light trust. Hiruzen, stop being stubborn. The Uchiha are becoming more and more dangerous. Uchiha Shisui must not stay in the Anbu. Hand him over to me and allocate some funds to the root. I will let the root handle it. Seeing that Danzo was no longer hiding it, the Sandai didn't want to argue with him anymore, and said directly, the Uchiha have made great efforts this time. The village needs to allocate some funds to them. We have no spare funds to allocate more funds to the root. What? Danzo's face changed and he shouted immediately, how can this be? The Uchiha are too dangerous. If the root has no funds, how can it contain them and protect Konoha? The Sandai glanced at Danzo unhappily. The root has so few people, how can so much funds not be enough? Danzo, you didn't do anything behind my back, did you? Danzo paused. His anger was immediately suppressed. He said in a deep voice, the root's duty is to protect Konoha in the dark. Everything I do is for Konoha. Seeing Danzo's statement, the Sandai showed some embarrassment on his shriveled face, but there are already voices of dissatisfaction within the Uchiha clan. If there is another cut in next year's funding, it may cause unrest. Now that the war is over, we can only let the root suffer. Let the root suffer? When has he ever suffered such a grievance? If we can get them to agree to cut funding, it will be fine, right? Danzo's eyes lit up, revealing a fierce look. Danzo, what are you going to do? We must not provoke the Uchiha at this time. Don't worry, I have my own way. Leave this to me. Danzo sneered and took the report on the table away. Danzo, even if it is you, if you want to do something that harms Konoha, I will stop you. The third generation stood up, his expression very dissatisfied. Hiruzen, you are just too indecisive. Leaving the last sentence, Danzo slammed the door and left. It's a troubled time. The third generation sighed, without too much resistance, and sat back down. After a moment, he recovered. Just as he was about to take out the crystal ball, another voice came from outside the door. Your Excellency, Hokage, Uchiha Shisui wants to see you. Shisui. The Sandame's eyes changed, and he took 2 puffs of his pipe and thought for a moment before saying, let him in. Yes. Hello, Sandame. Shisui, why did you come so early today? Is there something wrong with the work of the Anbu? The Sandame asked softly with a gentle face and a smile. No, under the leadership of Sandame, the work of the Anbu is going smoothly, and all colleagues are also very cooperative. The Sandame was surprised and put down the pipe in his hand. Oh, what happened? Shisui took out the envelope and respectfully presented it to the table. This is what the Great Elder wrote to me yesterday. Please take a look. Sandame. The Sandame took the envelope and did not feel strange. After all, Shisui was originally a spy who was instigated by him to monitor Uchiha. The Uchiha's annual meeting? The Uchiha clan has been passed down for many years, and the custom of the annual meeting has a long history. Now that the war has stopped, it is understandable that they want to have a lively time. After reading the letter, the dim eyes of the Sandai moved slightly, and he commented gently, no, Sandai, Konoha has just escaped from the war, but the Uchiha only cares about themselves. Such behavior can only show that they are narrow-minded. For the sake of Konoha, please order the arrest of the Great Elder and order them to prohibit the annual meeting. As soon as the Sandai finished speaking, Shisui raised his head and suggested, his expression solemn, as if there was an indescribable will that moved the Sandai. However, he still shook his head to reject Shisui's suggestion. Shisui, I see the will of fire in you. The future of Konoha and Uchiha rests on your shoulders. However, even as the Hokage, I cannot easily interfere with the internal decisions of the Uchiha family. After all, the annual meeting is their custom. As the Hokage, I must have the magnanimity to tolerate them. Only in this way can Konoha become a harmonious big family. I understand, Lord Sandaime. I will publicize within the clan that this is your grace. Ha ha ha, there's no need for that. If I hadn't seen the will of fire in you, I wouldn't have recognized it so easily. The Sandaime smiled and came to Shisui again. This is a must. Please accept the gratitude of the Uchiha. The Anbu has not yet been fully staffed. Please go back and ask Fugaku if there are any suitable candidates in the Uchiha clan. Shisui was shocked. He looked up at the Sandai in disbelief, his expression excited. Thank you, Sandai-sama. I will convey the truth and will definitely select the best ninja in the clan. The Sandai nodded and said with satisfaction, then I'll leave it to you, Shisui. Yes. After Shisui left, the Sandai's smile gradually faded. He looked at the letter in his hand and thought for a moment before calling an Anbu member. Hokage-sama, call the 2 advisors. Konoha has 3 advisors, but this Anbu has been nearby, so he naturally knows which 2 people the Sandai's referring to. Uten Koharu, Mito Kato-en. Yes, the Anbu left, and within a moment, there was movement outside the door. Hiruzen, what is it that requires me to come here? You know that the medical department has been very busy recently, right? Uten Koharu pushed the door open with a somewhat dissatisfied tone. Mito Kato-en followed closely and asked slowly, has the daimyo's issue been resolved, or has there been any new problem? The Sandai waved his hand and handed the letter to the 2 of them. This is what Shisui just sent. They will hold an annual meeting on New Year's Day. Remember to pay attention and arrange their people well and don't let them have conflicts. It's the Uchiha again. When will they be as obedient as the Hinata? Uten Koharu held the letter with a trace of disgust in her eyes, while Mito Kato-en frowned. The village's money is not for them to waste like this. I think we should reconsider next year's funding. Don't talk nonsense. I've already promised them. Besides, it's just an annual meeting. It's not enough to cover up their achievements. The villagers will understand. Hiruzen. Uten Koharu was dissatisfied and wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by the Sandai. That's it. Remember to arrange it. With a cold snort, the 2 of them walked away. Feeling somewhat baffled, they took time out of their busy schedule to come here just for such a trivial matter as the Uchiha. The situation of each family is not very good this year. The Uchiha will only cause public outrage if they do this. On the way back, Uten Koharu said softly. Mito Kato-en looked at her and nodded slowly. Everything was said without words. There were some small things these 2 days, so the update was a little slow. Please forgive me. Chapter 41. The youth knows the taste of sorrow. Chakra is a combination of spiritual energy and physical energy, and the sealing technique can target chakra. Does that mean that the sealing technique can act on the spirit and body? If it is used, can it achieve immortality? In the study, Sima Yi looked at the recent study results and whispered to himself. He stared at the scrolls covering the table in front of him for a long time without moving his eyes. Immortality. In the past, the first emperor sent people to travel around the world to pursue the traces of the fairy island in order to achieve immortality, but he never found the immortal method. Now that he is in another world, maybe immortality is not impossible? However, he was summoned, and his life is limited by Shisui. His death will not affect Shisui, but if Shisui dies, he will disappear. If I use the sealing technique to find the method of immortality. Sima Yi's heart moved slightly, and a dangerous idea flashed through his mind. Knock, knock, knock. Grandpa, can I come in? The door was knocked, and Sima Yi came back to his senses. He sighed and said softly, come in. Shisui pushed the door open with a sunny smile on his face. Grandpa, I brought you some snacks, 3-color meatballs, Ichi's favorite. Grandpa, try them. Shisui brought the paper bag to Sima Yi, with some expectation in his eyes. Haha, then Grandpa will try it. Sima Yi took a bunch and bit off a little. He frowned after chewing it for a while. It was too sweet. Fortunately, he just tasted it lightly, drank a sip of tea, and then put the meatball aside. Seeing this, Shisui took the meatball and smiled awkwardly. Although Sima Yi did not comment, Shisui already knew the result. He lowered his head in surprise. Ichi obviously likes it. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own preferences. Sima Yi chuckled and asked, "Why did you come back so early today? Is everything going well?" Grandpa guessed it all. The third generation really agreed to the annual meeting. Not only that, the third generation also intends to select candidates for the Anbu from the Uchiha clan. Clan leader Fugaku will definitely be happy when he knows about it. Shisui thought of the reaction of the clan when he entered the Anbu. Even the always serious Fugaku rarely smiled. If you show favor without reason, there may be troubles in the future. With the attitude of the Konoha high-level officials towards the Uchiha, there is no reason to suddenly give benefits. This behavior is more like appeasement. Sima Yi is not unfamiliar with this method. Since there is appeasement, there must be suppression in secret. The Uchiha annual meeting cannot be called suppression, so it can only be in other aspects. Troubles in the future? Does the third generation want to continue to instigate the clan members? Shisui thought about it. The biggest danger of becoming an Anbu is to be confused by the high-level officials like he used to be. It's not certain yet, but you don't have to worry too much. Just be patient and follow our ideas step by step. Okay, it's almost noon. After lunch, I'll go to the clan leader's house and tell him about this. Okay. After lunch, Shisui said goodbye to Sima Yi and came to Fugaku's house, but Uchiha Mikoto told him that something happened in the security department and Fugaku had left first. Is that so? Then I'll go to the security department to find the clan leader. Seeing this, Shisui had to say goodbye, but was stopped by Ichi. Mom, I'll go with brother Shisui. Ichi had just finished lunch and heard the noise and immediately came to the corridor. Mikoto looked at Shisui and agreed when she saw him nod. Then, she went back to the house to get the lunchbox and gave it to Ichi, and said to Shisui, "Ichi, I'll leave it to you." Yes. After leaving the yard, Ichi puffed up his cheeks and asked, "Didn't you say you would come to practice with me? I haven't seen you for a long time." Shisui couldn't help but feel embarrassed when he mentioned this. After get off work every day, he would go back to see his grandfather as soon as possible. So how could he remember Ichi? Sorry, I've been too busy lately. Look, this is for you. Don't be angry. Shisui casually took out a paper bag from his arms. This is 3-color meatballs. Ichi's eyes changed, and his originally resentful expression suddenly showed a smile, and he happily took the bag. Thank you, brother Shisui. Did you buy this for me? Well, delicious. Although he had just finished his meal, for Ichi, the 3-color meatballs were another stomach. Of course I bought it for me. Shisui smiled. His eyes were a little evasive. However, Ichi was already confused by the sweetness of the 3-color meatballs and did not notice anything. After swallowing 2 strings in a row, Ichi asked, "By the way, brother Shisui, what do you want to talk to my father about?" "It's not a big deal. The clan wants to hold an annual meeting, and the clan leader has also asked for my opinion. I want to discuss it with the clan leader when I have time. The annual meeting will soon be known to the whole clan," and Shisui did not hide it. Unexpectedly, Ichi frowned after hearing it, and sadness appeared on his young face. Brother Shisui is also going to stop the annual meeting, right? The village is already in such a difficult situation, but they want to hold such a meaningless event at this time. They also want to affect brother Shisui because of this. They are really a group of narrow-minded people, huh? Shisui was shocked and looked at Ichi seriously. He saw that his expression was serious and he didn't look like a 6-year-old child at all. He recalled the future of Uchiha that he saw that night again. Shisui asked casually without moving his expression, "How did Ichi know about this?" "It was the people of the first and second elders. I was next to them when their people came to discuss with my father at home." This, with Fugaku's strength, Can't he find the location of Ichi? Of course it is impossible not to find it, which can only mean that Fugaku is deliberately training Ichi. He is only 6 years old. Shisui's mouth twitched slightly. How many times has he had a headache with this Fugaku? Even when Sima Yi asked him to contact Ichi, he advised, "Don't always worry about troubles." Chief Fugaku is really, huh? What's wrong? Ichi looked up at Shisui, not understanding the other's expression. Shisui was helpless, stroking Ichi's hair and just chuckled. A moment later, the two came to the guard department, and there were already many people around the guard department. There were guards, ordinary villagers, ninjas with forehead protectors, and people from the Anbu, pushing and shoving, and there seemed to be quarrels. Shisui sensed something was wrong, sent Ichi away and went forward alone to ask, "What happened?" "It's Shisui-sama. Shisui is here." The crowd noticed Shisui and immediately made way for him, who walked out of the guard team and came to Shisui's side to explain. At noon, 2 ninjas got drunk and suddenly went crazy. Although we received the news and rushed here quickly, the street was a bit remote. When we arrived, the 2 guys had already caused trouble. Hui suddenly lowered his voice and leaned close to Shisui's ear. 5 villagers were involved. 3 of them have died, 1 of the 3 is a child, and the remaining 2 were seriously injured and sent to the hospital. The 3rd generation has already known about this, and even the head of the Fugaku clan has been called in for questioning. What? Shisui's face changed. If it was just this incident, he would only feel regretful, but at this moment he only thought of Sima Yi's suspicion. If you show favor without reason, there may be trouble in the future. Apostrophe. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. Let's practice together. Ichi. Captain Shisui. The Anbu people also noticed Shisui, and immediately came to his side and said, "Hokage sent us to guard here to prevent the situation from escalating." Although the few people were wearing masks, Shisui had been in the Anbu for so long that he knew who they were just by their voices. After confirming that they were not from the route, Shisui looked at the people who were arguing. The leader was a man with crazy behavior. He pointed at the guards and cursed, "Why did you Uchiha people come so late? Aren't you usually very nosy? Why this time? Why only this time? If you came earlier, Shinichi would not die." Shinichi is the child, only 5 years old, cut open by the kunai, and the body has been sent away, Who explained in a low voice. In the face of the man's scolding, the guards were indignant but had no way to defend themselves. Only Uchiha Yashiro stood in front of him expressionlessly and looked at the man. Although he did not move, he just stood there, and the blood-red Sharingan calmly scanned everyone, which brought them a mountain of pressure. However, even so, the pain of losing their children and relatives still made the relatives of these victims scream wildly. Shisui frowned slightly and asked, "Where are the 2 ninjas?" Hua curled his lips and looked at the Anbu members. "They have been taken away by the Anbu people. It is said that the Hokage will personally interrogate them." Anbu? Shisui's heart tightened and he immediately looked at the Anbu members. The man tilted his head, seemed a little confused, and just said, "They should have been taken away by other teams. The mission given to us by the 3rd generation is to stay here and prevent the situation from escalating." Shisui clenched his fist secretly, and he had already guessed it in his heart. Since it is the order of the 3rd generation, the guard team should of course cooperate. "Brother Hu, please tell Uncle 8th generation to invite these people into the guard department and talk slowly. It is inevitable that they will affect other villagers if they are crowded outside. There are more and more people around, and if this continues, the matter will only get worse." Shisui felt from the bottom of his heart that the guard team was innocent and they should not be accused for no reason. But it seemed that everyone thought that this was the Uchiha's problem, including some Uchiha clansmen who were standing under the guard. This made him feel a little terrified. "Captain Shisui, this..." The Anbu people were a little embarrassed, but they couldn't tell what was wrong. Who immediately nodded in response, walked towards Uchiha Yasaku and whispered in his ear. After a moment, Yasaku nodded slightly. The murderer has been taken away by the Hokage, and the result will be out soon. You guys wait in the guard department first. With a flat tone and cold faces, how could everyone agree? They immediately scolded. What? You killed Shinichi and now you want to attack me? The Hokage will not forgive you. You guard team trash. You disregard everyone's trust. The Hokage will not let you go. The insults have not stopped yet. Whose eyes have flashed with a fierce light, and he glanced at Shisui from the corner of his eye, seeing him walking in front of several Anbu, and then nodded slightly to him, who immediately understood what he meant and said hurriedly, Uncle Ye-Zero, these people are already too sad. I'm afraid they will hurt themselves if they continue like this. Let's calm them down first. Ye-Zero was stunned for a moment and was about to ask, but the man in front of him cried out in pain. His expression was agitated, and then he kept screaming and crying until he fainted, as if he was short of oxygen. Hurry up and carry the man up, find a medical ninja, and you guys go up together. Wait for the order from the Hokage. The Anbu will protect you. Ye-Zero waved his hand, and the clansmen standing on both sides immediately carried the unconscious man away. The others were so frightened that they forgot to refute, and when they heard him mention the Hokage and the Anbu, they subconsciously obeyed the guards who took them away. The Anbu near Shisui paused for a moment, and then saw the scene of several people in front of them fainting from excessive grief after a quarrel. Several people did not doubt him and asked immediately, he fainted? Captain Shisui, what now? First disperse the villagers around to prevent the impact from expanding, and then ask the Hokage for instructions. The others continue to guard here. Yes. The Anbu immediately followed the order after hearing it, and Shisui calmed down and turned to leave. Brother Shisui, is there something wrong with the security department again? Although Uchi is not very old, he has heard and seen too many things since he was a child, but none of them are good things. Under the influence of these, he is more likely to think in a pessimistic direction. Shisui touched Uchi's head and forced a smile, saying, it's nothing serious, just some small conflicts. Just like before, the villagers came to make a fuss again, and it has been resolved just now. Is that so? Ichi nodded, looking like he believed it, but Shisui keenly noticed the doubt in Ichi's heart. Is there so much complicated thoughts at the age of 6? Okay, don't think about it. It just happens that we have time today. Let's practice together. Really? Yeah. Seeing Shisui nod, Ichi smiled again. The two of them smiled and went to the nearby forest to practice together, and did not stop until the evening. Sitting around the campfire, Shisui handed the grilled fish to Ichi and asked casually, Ichi is already 6 years old this year, it's time for him to go to the ninja school. Huh? Well, my father has arranged for me to enter the ninja school, but it's boring there, and my father and others also want me to graduate early. If everything goes well, maybe I will leave the ninja school next year. It was Fugaku again. Graduating in just 1 year? Ichi is indeed a genius, but have you thought about what to do after graduation? Ordinary students graduate in 6 years, usually around the age of 12, and then they will participate in the ninja assessment. If they pass the assessment, they will become a qualified genin, and then they will be divided into teams and do missions. I should go on missions, so that I can become a qualified ninja sooner, and I can help brother Shisui. The firelight illuminated Ichi's cheeks, bright and soft. Seeing Ichi's serious look, Shisui's expression moved, and after a moment of hesitation, he said, the training of a ninja is not only to improve strength. I have recently gained some insights and I want to find someone to learn something else with me. Other things? Can I learn too? Ichi was tempted. It didn't matter what he learned, but he was very interested in training with Shisui. Of course, but if you graduate, you will be busy with missions and may not have time. Ichi frowned and hesitated. He rarely refused his father's request, and there were many voices in the clan who hoped that he would graduate earlier to compete with Kakashi. Seeing his embarrassment, Shisui suggested, why don't I talk to the chief of the Fugaku clan? If he agrees, come to me when you are free in the near future. How about it? Yes. Chapter 43, Fugaku. As night approached, Fugaku finally left the Hokage building. He looked calm, but he felt very complicated when he saw the people waiting for him downstairs. Clan leader, what did the Hokage say? This matter shouldn't be blamed on us, right? The old thief Danzo and his gang are really bullying us too much. Inahori, what nonsense. Clan leader, let's go back first. Uchiha Inahori, Uchiha Tuo, Uchiha Yangs, and the other 3 captains of the security department are all here. Today is definitely a busy day for them. During this period, they finally took the time to come here, but they saw several consultants entering the Hokage's office one after another. There were also some noises in the middle, almost all of which were Danzo's questions. It doesn't matter, the 3rd generation already knows the whole story, and did not ask, but just asked the security department to go back and appease those relatives. Then old Danzo, the consultants didn't take the opportunity to make things difficult. Everyone listened but didn't believe it. After all, Fugaku had been in the Hokage building for almost the whole day, and the quarrels heard from above really didn't seem to be nothing. Fugaku shook his head. His expression was always calm, but only he knew what he was thinking in his heart. Clan leader, the 8th generation and the others are still in the guards department watching over the families of those people. The Anbu people are also there. How should we respond to them? Uchiha Tuo asked in a low voice. Although he felt innocent in this matter, he really didn't want to cause any more trouble in the current situation. Inahori frowned, but didn't say anything. However, Uchiha Yangs on the side did not remain silent. Instead, he asked, let's not talk about those relatives first. May I ask, clan leader, where are the 2 prisoners captured by the 8th generation today? Fugaku glanced at Uchiha Yangs. As the only female in the 4 teams of the guards department, Yangs's personality perfectly inherited the pride that Uchiha should have, which is also what gave him a headache. The 3rd generation has already ordered them to be detained. They will be locked up in Konoha prison. They shouldn't be there, but in Uchiha's prison. Yangs clenched her fists. She looked at the Hokage building above with a dissatisfied expression. And without them, how can we explain to the relatives of the victims? How can we let the villagers know? That's enough. Yangs, the clan leader has been tired for a day. Let's go back to the clan and talk. Tuo's expression suddenly became serious, interrupting Yangs's questioning. Yangs kept silent, and immediately realized something. After looking at the building, he looked at the silent Fugaku, then snorted coldly and turned away. Clan leader, Yangs. Fugaku shook his head and didn't care. After Yangs left, he also left. Seeing this, Tuo and the others hurriedly followed. After the few people left, Danzo walked out of the Hokage building slowly with a cane. He sneered at Fugaku's departing back, and his figure quickly merged into the darkness. Arriving at the clan's land, Fugaku whispered to the 2 of them, the matter of the security department is now in your hands. Don't let them make a big fuss, otherwise it will become a handle for the village to attack the clan. As long as they are willing to settle the matter, give them some benefits. Tuo was speechless. After hesitating for a moment, he reminded, I'm afraid the elder won't let it go. Uchiha Yashiro and Uchiha Yangs are both people who are inclined to the elder's ideas. Even they are dissatisfied with the results of the handling. It is conceivable how the elder will react. Danzo frowned, feeling depressed and unwilling to say a word. I will explain it to the elder in person. You can do it without worry. Yes. After the 2 left, Fugaku sighed alone outside the courtyard gate. After a long time, he pushed open the courtyard gate and walked towards home. Clan leader, father. As soon as he entered the door, Fugaku saw Shisui and Ichi sitting in the house, seemingly talking about something. When they saw him come in, they stood up. Mikoto came over and gently helped him put on his coat, then poured him some hot tea, and then took Ichi and Sasuke away. Soon, there were only 2 people left in the huge house. Fugaku nodded gently, took a sip of hot tea, and asked, Shisui, is the work in the Anbu going smoothly? Thanks to the concern of the clan leader, everything is going smoothly with the care of the Hokage. Shisui responded with a smile, and his behavior was very respectful. That's good. Have you heard any news from the Anbu recently? Fugaku asked naturally. After all, Shisui was a spy selected by the Uchiha to enter the Anbu. The 3rd generation approved the annual meeting, and the 2 offending ninjas today should have been taken away by the root. Oh, the 3rd generation actually approved the annual meeting held by the Great Elder? Fugaku directly ignored Shisui's second piece of information, with a surprised expression. Yes, I was worried that the 3rd Hokage would be dissatisfied with the annual meeting, so I used the letter from the Great Elder to test him. Great Elder? Fugaku breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that, and seemed to be suddenly relieved. It seems that the 3rd Hokage really wants to ease the relationship this time. Shisui's eyes moved, and he was puzzled. He glanced to the side and did not choose to ask directly, but continued to report. The 3rd Hokage also promised to select ninjas from the Uchiha clan to supplement the Anbu. After that, Shisui looked at Fugaku, thinking that the other party should be happy, but unexpectedly Fugaku's expression did not change, but just nodded slightly. I already know about this. The 3rd Hokage discussed it with me personally today. It is indeed a good opportunity for us. Something happened today. I'm sorry that I didn't inform you in time. Shisui immediately lowered his head when he heard that. Ha ha ha. It doesn't matter. I heard that Uchi has been practicing with you frequently during this period. Thank you for your hard work. Recently, Shisui was stunned. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he could only laugh dryly and replied, "No, Ichi is a genius. His talent is not inferior to mine, and I can learn a lot from practicing with him." Speaking of Ichi, Fugaku's face rarely showed a little complacency. He nodded slowly and praised, "You are worthy of being my son." But I heard that the clan leader plans to let Ichi graduate early. Yes, the war is over, and Ichi's ability is enough to graduate early, but Ichi is only 6 years old. Will this affect him? What's the matter? Kakashi graduated at the age of 5. Ichi, as my child, must not graduate step by step. Speaking of graduating early, Fugaku seemed to think of something, and a trace of annoyance flashed in his eyes. Then who does the clan leader plan to find as Ichi's teacher after graduation? Ichi's identity is different from that of ordinary Uchiha. As the son of the clan leader, becoming a disciple is definitely an extremely important investment. It is undoubtedly a waste to use it within the clan. Fugaku naturally considered this as well. The 4th Hokage passed away. I wanted to find Master Jiraiya, but unfortunately he is not in Konoha all year round and his whereabouts are unknown. Master Tsunade has also left Konoha. Now it seems that Master Orochimaru is the most suitable. Master Orochimaru? Orochimaru, also a disciple of the 3rd Hokage, one of the 3 ninjas, is the only one of the 3 who remains in Konoha. However, he has rarely appeared since the 4th Hokage took office. But others may not know where Orochimaru is, so how can Fugaku and Shisui not know? No way. Chapter 44. This is not something you would say. Shisui's face suddenly changed, and he subconsciously spoke out to stop him. Even he found Orochimaru, a dangerous man, quite difficult to deal with. If someone with such a gloomy personality became Ichi's teacher, Shisui couldn't imagine what the 2 would do together. Huh? Fugaku paused with his teacup, and looked at Shisui with some confusion, not understanding why Shisui reacted so strongly. Orochimaru was one of the 3 ninjas, and a disciple of the Hokage, and was fully qualified to be Ichi's teacher. Lord Orochimaru already has a disciple, and don't you think his personality is not suitable for teaching Ichi? Personality? Fugaku thought about it carefully. Orochimaru was indeed a little weird, and his reputation had been declining before the 4th Hokage took office. But for the Uchiha, some sacrifices are necessary, not to mention that he is my son. Fugaku was also quite helpless. If the 4th Hokage was still alive, Ichi might become his disciple. According to the information I got from the Anbu, Lord Orochimaru is very close to Danzo. Danzo will not agree to him taking Ichi as his disciple, and even if he agrees, it will not be out of good intentions. Danzo is a problem that Uchiha cannot avoid, and Fugaku knows this very well. Recalling the targeting in the Hokage's office during the day, he was silent. The 2 looked at each other but had nothing to say. Lord Orochimaru is unreliable. Leave Ichi to me. I hope Ichi can practice with me. When the time is right, I will introduce Ichi to the 3rd Kai and let him join the Anbu. Shisui bowed down, his tone sincere. Fugaku was moved. He stared at Shisui and asked, "Why do you have to go to this extent?" "For Uchi, and for the future of Uchiha." Shisui looked up, his expression solemn, his eyes like torches. He mentioned Uchi and Uchiha, but only did not mention Konoha. Fugaku felt Shisui's determination from the bottom of his heart. He wavered again, but he still did not give in, because Uchi represented more than just his son, and more than just a member of the Uchiha clan. "I will convince the clan members, Uchi, and let the Uchiha people teach." "Please, clan leader, this is not something you would say." Fugaku was surprised, as if he was meeting Shisui for the first time, but this time he did not refuse. He crossed his arms, his expression calm, and nodded. "But if you can do it, I will leave Uchi to you." "Thank you, clan leader." Shisui showed joy, breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked to the side. Uchi walked out at the right time. He had been listening to the side. Both Shisui and Fugaku knew his position clearly. "Uchi, you can choose a time to practice with Shisui in the future." "Yes, father." Uchi smiled slightly, which made Fugaku slightly stunned. "Then I will take my leave first. I will find a chance to report to you about the Anbu." "Well, be careful and don't expose yourself." After greeting Fugaku, Shisui looked at Uchi again. Seeing some reluctance in Uchi's eyes, he slowly raised his hand and stroked his short hair. "Remember to come and practice tomorrow. I'll wait for you at home." After Shisui left, Uchi stood in the corridor and looked out, but he didn't see Fugaku looking down at his hands and falling into deep thought. Does Uchi like to be patted on the head? In Shisui's house, in the study, Sima Yi was still reading quietly. On the desk were various ninjutsu and bloodstain abilities recorded by the Uchiha clan. Many of these ninjutsu not only recorded the ninja clans that were good at these ninjutsu, but also the training methods and restraint methods. It was rare for the Uchiha to be able to do this. The detailed records made him much easier. He only needed to glance over and write them down. On the other corner of the desk were more than a dozen intelligence reports that he had processed, some of which were sent by Hu, and some were inquired by Jinhuo and others. "Grandpa, I'm back." While flipping through the books, Shisui's voice came from a distance, and then there was a knock on the door. "Come in." Sima Yi replied casually, without looking up, and the book in his hand was turned page by page. Shisui pushed the door open, approached carefully without saying a word, and stood quietly beside him. Sima Yi realized something was wrong and looked up, only to see Shisui's eyes dodging and his expression tangled. He chuckled and asked, "Tell me, what's the matter?" "Hee. Nothing can be hidden from Grandpa." Sima Yi spoke first, and Shisui felt a lot more relaxed, and hurriedly moved closer to add tea for him. "It's not a big deal. Grandpa still remembers Uchi, right? The eldest son of the clan leader." "What, you want me to teach him, eh?" "Grandpa, you." Shisui was stunned. His expression was extremely surprised. "Grandpa, how did you know?" Sima Yi looked at Shisui and shook his head. "You mentioned him, and it's so difficult. What else can I do except let me teach him?" "Well, bring him here. It's convenient to observe him under your nose." Sima Yi still remembered the danger of Uchi, and he could deal with it at any time if he kept him here. "Really? That's great." "Thank you, Grandpa." Shisui was overjoyed. He thought it would be very difficult. After all, Sima Yi had persuaded him to take action before, but he didn't expect that he would accept Uchi so easily. "He will come tomorrow. I will introduce you to him." Sima Yi nodded, not caring. Uchi is just a small problem now. Just perfunctorily, he put down the book and handed the pile of information on the table to Shisui. "Take a look at this first. This is what happened in various places in Konoha today. It is all related to the police department. It seems that someone is doing it in secret." Shisui took it and looked at it, and his expression soon became solemn. "Ninja conflict, villagers quarrel, peripheral merchants' property was stolen, and foreign spies were exposed but escaped calmly. One by one, they are all trivial matters when taken separately, but they happen to be put together, showing the incompetence of Uchiha." Shisui frowned, but he didn't get angry. Instead, he asked, "Grandpa, can we take this opportunity to propose to the third generation to expand the guard team?" Sima Yi's eyes flashed with surprise. "This is really not something you would say, eh?" Shisui was stunned. Why does this sound so familiar? However, Sima Yi still gave some affirmation. It's a good idea, but unfortunately the timing is not right, and they are unlikely to agree. For now, we should focus more on the internal affairs. What about these? Shisui raised the intelligence in his hand and asked in confusion. The top leaders are busy suppressing the police department, and the clan leader and elders are busy dealing with it. Both sides have no time to take care of other things. I have almost understood the situation of the family and the village. It's time to take the next step. Are you going to take action against clan leader Fugaku? Shisui was depressed and even a little impatient, but he did not avoid the topic. After today's contact, he was more certain that Fugaku would only lead Ichi to a dead end, and Uchiha could not be left to him. Haha, it's still early. The first thing to do is to develop yourself, and leave the rest to God. Remember, stability can last long. Chapter 45 Who in Action. The next morning, Shisui went to the Hokage building to ask the third Hokage for leave, and the third Hokage agreed decisively, promising that he would not have to come to work until the end of the Uchiha annual meeting. When he came back, Ichi was standing outside the courtyard waiting. The courtyard door was open, and Kinkid and Iki stood aside, looking a little embarrassed. Ichi, you came so early? Have you been waiting for a long time? No, I just got here. The two of them exchanged in a low voice, and then entered the courtyard together. Kinkid still stood at the courtyard door and watched their backs go away. He couldn't help pouting and whispered, "You've been here for a long time, right?" "I just got here. Obviously I've been here for a long time." "You are a smart student. What are you talking about in secret again? Be careful that Shisui-sama will drive you away." Iki was very close, and heard Kinkid's weird tone and hurriedly dissuaded him. "Master Shisui wouldn't do that, but what Grandpa Yi said is possible." "Okay, just kidding. Since Master Shisui is back, let's go and complete Grandpa Yi's mission." Hee. Come to think of it, this is the first time I've seen a mission that costs money. It's so easy. "That's right, it's just the annual meeting purchase. Why do you have to do this?" "Who cares? Let's go. Let's have fun today." When the two of them left with laughter, Shisui and Ichi also came to the study room, where Sima Yi was reading without fail. Ichi looked at Shisui, who stopped outside the study room with some doubts. Just as he was about to ask, he saw Shisui raised his hand to signal him to be quiet. "Dong dong dong Grandpa, I brought Ichi here." "Grandpa?" Ichi immediately showed a shocked expression, and he looked at Shisui with a strange look on his face. Shisui's grandfather is a disciple of the second generation, Uchiha Kagami, who in the family doesn't know him, but that person has been dead for a long time. How could he be here? "Come in," a low voice sounded. Shisui pushed the door open and Ichi followed closely behind. Entering the study room, seeing the strange old man in front of him, Ichi's first thought was Orochimaru, whom he met at the memorial. However, he remained calm and did not show any emotion. He just looked at him quietly. When Ichi was looking at Sima Yi was also looking at him. He felt a little emotional. After all, it was a world that could send 10-year-old children to the battlefield. No wonder they were so precocious. "Grandpa, this is Ichi, the son of the Fugaku clan leader." "Ichi? This is the grandfather I recognized after returning from the front line." "You can call him Grandpa Yi. He has helped me a lot and is a great wise man." Shisui's high valuation made Ichi's thoughts change immediately. He stepped forward and bowed obediently. "Grandpa Yi." Sima Yi smiled and nodded, turned around and took out a thick book from the shelf and put it in Ichi's hand. "You are indeed a good boy. The future of Uchiha depends on you. This is a gift from Grandpa. You can read it when you are bored when you go back." Ichi felt his hands sink, just by the weight. He knew that this book was different. Shisui glanced at the book with his eyes slanted, and saw that the cover of the book was written as Mingdao tour notes, which seemed to be just a travelogue. This made him a little confused, and he didn't understand Sima Yi's intention, but Ichi was right beside him, so he didn't dare to ask. "I heard that you are going to practice?" "Yes, Grandpa, I will practice with Ichi these days." Ichi hugged the book in his arms and nodded. "Well, then you should be careful. The medical ninjas in the Uchiha clan were transferred this morning. Be careful not to get hurt when practicing." After saying that, Sima Yi lowered his head and continued to read. Shisui's mouth twitched slightly. He thought Sima Yi would test Uchi in various ways and then teach him, but he didn't expect to drive them away so soon. Uchi was very happy that he didn't take up too much time, and his perception of Sima Yi was better. Then Grandpa, we will leave first and we'll be back in the evening. Okay. Shisui had no choice but to take Uchi out of the study without being persuaded. After leaving, he realized that he seemed to have overlooked something. He looked at Uchi and asked uncertainly, "Did Grandpa say just now that all the medical ninjas in the clan have been transferred away?" "Well, the medical department sent someone to find Father this morning, saying that the ninja hospital is short of staff, and hoped that Father could send all the medical ninjas in the clan to support, and Father agreed." Shisui frowned. Now every action of Konoha towards Uchiha can arouse his sensitive nerves. It makes him suspicious of the motives of Konoha's top leaders all the time. After thinking for a moment, he sighed and turned his eyes to Uchi, who was still holding the book. Now, the child in front of him is the top priority for him. He took out a scroll and said with a smile, "Put the book here. We have to practice all day today." Yes, the two of them were full of smiles in their eyes. In the sunshine, they left the clan land together, crossed the street, and headed towards the uninhabited forest. At the same time, outside Konoha, "My Lord Ninja, I am Osaka Uchiha, the owner of this salt shop. I wonder what you gentlemen want to see me about?" Outside a salt shop, Osaka Uchiha looked at the young ninjas in uniform in front of him, with a smile on his face. Who looked calm, walked around the shop, and scanned every corner of the shop with his 3 Magatama Sharingan, and finally set his eyes on Osaka Uchiha. "A hostile spy escaped yesterday. For the safety of Konoha, we are now conducting a comprehensive search. Please cooperate with us." "Ha ha ha, Lord Ninja, you are joking. I am just a salt merchant. How can there be a spy here?" Osaka Uchiha is tall and fat, with a face full of flesh. He laughs with full energy. He is wearing a purple brocade robe and a mink coat. He is gorgeous and behaves quite calmly. "HMPH, do you have to tell me if there is any?" Hua did not give a good look. He sneered and glanced around. After just a glance at Osaka Uchiha, his eyes suddenly became dull, and then his whole body trembled uncontrollably. In just a moment, he was sweating profusely and retreated backwards with a look of fear. With a bang, he fell back to the ground. The servants around him were terrified and wanted to help him up, but they couldn't move. You, Osaka Uchiha's expression suddenly changed and he was no longer calm. He got up and said quickly, "Uchiha, you can't do this. Do you know that my uncle is?" However, before he finished speaking, he saw who glanced at him again, and then he was directly controlled. "If you have anything to say, go in and talk. Take him away directly, and seal the shop." The 2 people behind him immediately stepped forward after hearing the words, and locked him up in front of everyone in the store, and then sealed the counter and took away the account book. Whose eyes swept over, and no one dared to look directly at him. "Everyone, do not leave here before your shop owner comes back, otherwise I will arrest you and put you in Uchiha prison on the charge of colluding with foreign enemies." Yes, hearing the cold warning, everyone was afraid and responded in a low voice, not daring to raise their heads. Seeing this, Hua left. Let's go to the next store. Chapter 46 For Konoha, please. I'm so tired. No wonder Master Yi gave me a reward. This task looks so simple. I didn't expect it to be so tiring to execute. At noon, outside Shisui's house, Giant Hua dragged a lot of bags back and complained. It was winter now, but he was sweating profusely, and his cotton clothes were soaked. "I mean, why do we have to buy vegetables, one by one, for the annual meeting? This is not enough. And didn't Grandma and others go for this kind of thing in the past?" Yingshu also nodded in response. He was not tired, but just felt strange. This was the 4th time they came back this morning. Whenever they couldn't get anything, they would run back to put the things away and continue to go out to buy. In response, Sima Yi replied, "You did a good job. I will tell Shisui." For Master Shisui, the 2 had to grit their teeth and work until now. "Youth is fast. I'm about to break my waist from all this stuff." While the 2 were talking, 2 more people came up from behind. They were also guards, but they pushed a wooden cart filled with all kinds of goods they had bought. They were panting and walking over with difficulty. "You're back, is this still possible? How many streets do you still need to finish?" "Well, we're only on the 4th street, and there's still a lot to go. We may not be able to finish it today." "What about you?" "We're on the 3rd street." The four were speechless. It was the first time they felt pain because of spending money on buying things. "Thank you for your hard work, adults. Butler Yi told you to have dinner after you come back this time. Let's continue after lunch." A person walked out of the courtyard gate. It was Uchiha. She had a gentle smile on her face and a wooden box in her hand. "Great, I can finally take a break. I feel like I can eat 10 bowls of tonkatsu ramen now." Yingshu also breathed a sigh of relief and joked, "That's too much, Brother Jinhyuo. Besides, Grandma and the others don't know how to make tonkatsu ramen." "No way, it's none of your business." The other two also laughed and said, "Then you guys go eat first. Leave the food here and we can push the car in, hey? Is that okay?" Jinhyuo grinned, a little embarrassed. "Don't underestimate us. After all, we are Uchiha's genin. Ha ha ha." "That's true, thank you very much." "Yingshu, let's go. Let's go eat and see what delicious food we have today." Jinhyuo did not refuse the kindness of the two. After thanking them, he pulled Yingshu to enter the yard. Unexpectedly, Xua suddenly stretched out her hand to stop him outside the yard. "Eh? This is the money for lunch today. Thank you for your hard work." Xua smiled sweetly. She took out the banknotes from the wooden box and handed them to Jinhyuo. However, Jinhyuo's mouth twitched when he looked at the 10 banknotes in front of him. He felt something was wrong. "Lunch money? What does this mean? Master Yi is not asking us to eat outside, right?" It was obviously a good thing. If it was yesterday, he would jump for joy. However, after experiencing a morning of hardship, he found that these tasks of Sima Yi were not as easy as they seemed. "Yes, the housekeeper wants to know which restaurants outside are better. We will purchase them at the annual meeting, so I hope you can try a few more." Master Jinhyuo should understand what the housekeeper means, right? Of course he understood, but even with the current price, a bowl of tonkatsu ramen is only 90 taels, but these 10 banknotes are a full 10,000 taels, and they are for him alone. Even if they eat barbecue, it is enough. It can be imagined that this lunch is not a time for them to rest. "Do we have to try all the ones on the street?" "Of course, we have to try every street and every restaurant that Master Jinhyuo and Master Yingshu are in charge of." "Everyone?" "Everyone." Looking at Xua's smiling expression, the young Jinhyuo's forehead was forced to make a well. "I see, this is the record of this trip. Please give it to him for me." Jinhyuo took the money and put down the record fiercely, then turned and left. Yingshu also took out the record, took the money, thanked him and followed. Xua smiled and just replied coquettishly, "Thank you for your hard work." The remaining two scratched their heads and looked at each other, talking. "It should be a good thing for the housekeeper to treat us to dinner." "It should be." Sima Yi couldn't comment on whether it was a good thing or not. He had just finished lunch and was sorting out the records brought back by the 3 teams in the morning in the study. It included tedious records of streets, store names, items, prices, etc. Uchiha assisted on the side. Except for a short break at noon, the two had been busy for a long time. Among them, the stores involving grain and salt were all recorded separately by Sima Yi. "Yes, that's right. The same products inside and outside Konoha have different prices. Those related to ninjas don't need to be taken care of. Those stores related to mechanical science products should be recorded separately." In Konoha for so many days, Sima Yi mostly learned about ninjas. Now he looked down and soon found some strange items. They have nothing to do with ninjas, but they have various strange effects. They are not only practical and convenient for ordinary people, but also have the function of pleasing nobles. He keenly discovered the value of these items and recorded them carefully. "Yes, Butler." Miwa was quick and nimble, and could also read and count, which helped Sima Yi a lot. "Dong dong dong Butler. This batch of records of Jinhyuo has arrived. Come in. You're just in time. I'll leave the things here to you too. I need to take a rest." Sima Yi stretched his body and ordered. Xua walked in, put the records on the table and nodded obediently. "Okay, butler." After Sima Yi left, the two women looked at each other and then left their sight and continued their work silently. In the evening, after Shisui finished a day of training and sent Uchi back, he saw Jinhuo and others at the gate of his yard, who looked like they had lost all hope. "What's wrong with you?" Shisui went forward and saw that Xuo was actually giving money to them. But what made him curious was why they looked so ugly. Hearing Shisui's voice, Jinhuo's face changed and he ran over immediately, crying, "Master Shisui, the food outside is not delicious. It's not delicious. I don't want to eat." The food outside would not taste too bad, but it would not cost as much as barbecue, and the two of them could not eat at the same restaurant for the sake of record. So after eating on the street, the money was not spent and the food was already up to his throat. He had no appetite and encountered some fried and sweet things, which made Jinhuo feel uncomfortable all over. "If it doesn't taste good, then don't eat it." Shisui smiled and was about to raise his hand to comfort him, but he saw Xuo walked around Jinhuo and whispered a few words in his ear. Shisui's expression changed, he smiled awkwardly, and his raised hand also paused, and finally slowly fell on Jinhuo's shoulder. "Jinhuo, for Akaya, for Konoha, please." "Huh?" Chapter 47 Uemura Takeshi. "Akaya, you can't do this. Do you know that my uncle is the Minister of Finance? He is a minister. If you dare to put me in prison, my uncle will not let you go." In Akaya prison, Osaka Yuzuki desperately slapped the iron cage in front of him. His expression was ferocious, no longer elegant and calm as before. Next to him, 8 businessmen were also imprisoned. Although they came from different places, they had one thing in common: salt merchants. Some of them were pale and at a loss, some looked at each other coldly and remained silent, and some smiled and greeted with flattery. Who walked outside the cells one by one, looking at their expressions and not caring. "So it's the Minister of Finance." "If you didn't say it, I thought it was someone from the Utani family." After a moment, he turned back and stopped outside Osaka Yuzuki's cell, saying jokingly. Osaka Yuzuki's expression paused, and he opened his mouth but didn't say anything. If he knew someone from the Utani family, he wouldn't mention his uncle. After all, this is Konoha, and the Utani assistant is a big shot here. "Really don't know him?" Hui was a little disappointed. He had thought it was a pleasant surprise, but seeing this he could only wave his hand and said, "Forget it. Since you don't know him, just wait here." Then he walked towards the interrogation room and interrogated them one by himself. "Name? Uemura Takeshi. Age? 34 years old. How much is the store's income and tax?" Uemura Takeshi paused, his face pale, and said, "Monthly income of 60,000 taels, tax of 12,000 taels." "Huh?" Hui raised his eyebrows. With his keen sense of smell as a ninja, he immediately noticed that the other party's expression was wrong. He snorted coldly, "Uemura Takeshi, did you forget that your account book is still here with me? Besides, I am Akaya." Under the gaze of the 3 Magatama Sharingan, Uemura Takeshi's pupils shrank and his face changed suddenly. He immediately laughed and said, "Yes, I remembered it wrong. It should be a monthly income of 600,000 taels and a tax of 120,000 taels." "How much?" Hui widened his eyes. If he remembered correctly, the things these people sold had nothing to do with ninjas. A pound of salt was only 80 taels, and the other party was just a small salt merchant. How could there be so much? No, I remembered it wrong, and I remembered it wrong again. Feeling a cold breath from Hui, Uemura Takeshi shook his head and changed his words again. "I told you so." Hui was relieved. He thought anyone could make more money than the ninja. "I didn't pay 120,000 taels of tax." I only paid 30,000 taels." Hui looked at the servile guy in front of him and was silent for a long time. Then he picked up a pen and paper and asked, "How many stores do you have?" "I'm weak and a small figure, so I only have 3 stores in Konoha." "Oh, what about outside Konoha?" "There are a few more in the surrounding towns, and the combined income is not as much as here." Uemura Yizi answered one by one, not daring to hide anything. "Well, the last question, do you know any ninjas in Konoha?" Uemura Yizi's eyes moved. He keenly realized that today's interrogation might not be for spies. He pondered for a moment, raised his head and responded, I have had a deal with a ninja from the Ministry of Finance, but I don't know his name. We only contact each other every time we collect taxes. He will help me cover up, and I will give him a reward. Very good, you can leave. Hui nodded, very satisfied with the other party's answer. He didn't expect that the first person he interrogated would satisfy Sima Yi's requirements. Yes, thank you, sir. Kamimura was delighted. He didn't expect the other party to let him go so easily, but he saw a pair of 3 Magatama Sharingan when he was about to get up. When he woke up again, he had returned to the shop with a confession in his arms. Kamimura recalled the scene he saw in the illusion and fell into deep thought. On the other side, who also interrogated the remaining 7 salt shop owners one by one, leaving only Osaka Yuzuki and ignoring him. Hua looked at the records in his hand and couldn't help feeling a little unfair. These salt merchants made countless times more money than he thought, and each of them had a lot of thoughts. If he hadn't taken the account book in advance and hadn't had these eyes to intimidate, he would probably have had to use the Sharingan to control them one by one to make them speak the truth. Many of them had ninja backgrounds, such as Daichina and Mitaman, but they were only slightly involved. And even those ninjas didn't know that these guys were making so much money. This group of salt merchants actually have a total income of 6 million taels a month. No, that fat guy hasn't asked yet. These people say that this fat guy is the big boss, and it is estimated that he can make more than 2 million taels alone. Damn it, I have to complete several less-level tasks to have such an income, but these guys can just sit there and enjoy their lives and make money. Hua was so angry that his teeth itched, and he flipped through the tax records of these people again. The total amount was less than 300,000 taels, and the outrageous thing was that the more they earned, the less they paid. We can't let these people have it so easy. He punched the table with a thud, and the wailing of Osaka Yuzuki on the other side stopped immediately. Master Ninja, Master Uchiha, I really don't have any spies. Master, you have to believe me. I am innocent. My uncle is a minister. The wailing sound resounded in the empty cell again, but there was no sign of Hua. Late at night, Hua came to Shisui's house with the account book, and Giant Hua was lying on a tree to digest his food. Brother Hua, what are you doing on the tree? Hua looked at Giant Hua's bulging belly and asked curiously, did Shisui treat you to barbecue today? Your belly is so big. Barbecue you? Giant Hua's stomach churned, and he quickly covered his mouth and pointed behind him. Uncle Yi is waiting for you in the study, go directly. After Giant Hua finished speaking, he hurriedly walked away. Hua looked at his back as he left, touched his head and looked strange, but he was too lazy to think about it and went straight to the study. Uncle Yi, I'm here. Hua moved slowly, carefully pushed open the door and poked his head in. Sima Yi was the only one in the study, and Hua got in like a thief. Shisui is practicing in the backyard. Please sit down. Sima Yi smiled upon seeing this, stood up and put away the things on the table, and asked, did you bring the things? Yes, Uncle Yi, and these profiteers are really abominable. They actually made a lot of money secretly. Hui handed the account books of several people and the income and tax data recorded today to Sima Yi, with injustice and a little anger on his face. Sima Yi ignored it, took the data, glanced at it and looked at the account book. After awakening the Sharingan, his brain was further strengthened, his past memory was clearer, and his arithmetic ability was greatly improved. He casually flipped open the 2 account books, calculated with his fingers, and got the result in a moment. Fake. What's fake? This account book was tampered with by them. The income and expenditure within a month don't match. I think they are trying to avoid taxation. These guys. Chapter 48. Rumors resurface. Hua's face flushed red, and he stood up immediately. These guys dared to lie to me. I will catch them right now and use the Sharingan to dig out everything in their brains. Sima Yi waved his hand, chuckled and stopped him, saying, no need to do that. Although the account book is fake, the profit they confessed is not much different. The account book only affects Konoha's tax revenue, so we don't have to get involved. That's true. Although he was still indignant, Hui thought that even if Konoha got more money, they would not think of them Uchiha, so there was no need to worry about this. By the way, I found someone who meets the requirements. Here, A guy named Kamimura Yishi. What should I do next? Following who is pointing, Sima Yi set his sights on Kamimura Yishi's information, an ordinary salt merchant living on the outskirts of Konoha, with no special background, was not very eye-catching. No need to pay special attention to him. Starting from tomorrow, conduct routine inspections in these salt shops every day until the escaped spy is caught. During this period, they are prohibited from buying and selling until they compromise. Hui nodded and said, "No problem, I can give orders directly in the name of the guard team." Unexpectedly, Sima Yi waved his hand to reject his idea. "You don't have to show up, let alone in the name of the guard team. Just do routine inspections. You can hint slightly with words, but don't leave any handles." Hui frowned and was a little embarrassed. Many of these people know people from the ninja clan. Will they listen if you don't do it in the name of the guard team? Sima Yi looked at the clothes on Hui's body. Are you afraid that they will disagree with you wearing this clothes? Since these people will hide it from the ninja clan, we won't have too deep contact with them. However, if there are really people who don't know how to appreciate it, then, Sima Yi's eyes were always calm, but what he said made Hui's heart tighten. Although these salt merchants have made some money, they are village people after all. If they are killed just for tax evasion, will it be? Most of the laws of Konoha are aimed at ninjas, but they are slightly lenient towards these ordinary people. Sima Yi laughed when he heard this. Ha ha ha, how many people who can come here to sell salt have clean hands? Tomorrow, just pick one and put it in jail for interrogation and you will know. Sima Yi knew the ruthlessness of salt and grain merchants best. These people either have a deep background or have ruthless means and a deep background, especially those who sell private salt. But this is the ninja world, a ninja world where ordinary people serve as daimyo. After giving the advice, Sima Yi did not continue to talk and said, "However, if it really comes to that, remember not to do it yourself, but imitate yesterday's conflict." Hui certainly knew about yesterday's conflict. Since he joined the guard department, the things he encountered have become more and more frustrating. If it weren't for Sima Yi, he would have left long ago. "I understand. I will handle it well, and I will never leave any handle." "Well, this is the next step. You have to give these people some extra deterrence." Sima Yi nodded and took out the grain merchants in today's circle and handed them to Hui. After taking it, Hui hesitated for a moment and asked, "Are we suppressing these businessmen like this to steal their business?" "It's just to increase the source of income. It's not time to steal their business yet. It's just for money." "I guess so." Hui's eyes lit up, and he smiled and asked, "Why don't we just take all their money? Anyway, the account book is in my hand, and they will definitely not dare to tell this." Sima Yi raised his eyebrows and said, "I didn't expect you to be so greedy." Ahem. Hui smiled awkwardly. I just made a casual suggestion. If it doesn't work, forget it. It's best not to do this kind of thing unless it's absolutely necessary. Windfall is not long-lasting and is prone to backlash. Only small families will seek such opportunities. For us, stability and long-term are necessary. Hui nodded, seemingly understanding, and continued to ask, "Then how much money do we want?" Sima Yi chuckled, looked at Hui meaningfully. "You don't have to ask. See what they mean, how much they are willing to give. You take as much as they are willing to give, until they don't want to give any more." Hui's eyes lit up, nodded repeatedly and said, "I understand. By the way, Uncle Yi, I also arrested a salt merchant leader. He has a strong background and is the nephew of the Minister of Finance." Minister of Finance? Sima Yi's eyes moved. He also knew something about the political system of this world. The Minister of Finance was definitely the most powerful person under his name. Lock him for 2 days to deter him and then release him. Don't involve him in future matters. Okay. Take the account book back and return it to them tomorrow. In addition, there is one more thing. Come closer to my ear. Hui was about to take the account book and paused when he heard the words and leaned forward. He only heard Sima Yi's whispers, which made his expression more entangled. Go. For the sake of Uchiha, there is no construction without destruction. Remember to hide yourself and don't expose yourself. Hui sighed, but finally nodded and replied, "Well, it's not the first time I feel so aggrieved anyway." Hui took the account book and turned to leave. His movements were gentle and silent. He crossed the far wall, and Jin Huo watched him without knowing anything. In the corner of the corridor outside the study, Shisui frowned as he watched Huo leave, but when he saw the light in the study turned on, he turned around and left without asking any further questions. The next morning, Ichi came to the yard again, greeted Kinkade and the others, and then came to the study. "Grandpa Yi, brother Shisui, good morning." Shisui stood aside and responded with a smile. Sima Yi also had a gentle expression and asked, "Have you read the book yesterday?" Ichi nodded and replied, "I only read some of it. There are still many I haven't read." "Well, there is indeed a lot in that book. It's a pity that I'm old and busy that I have forgotten a lot of things. Can Ichi tell Grandpa about it?" Ichi looked at Shisui, and Shisui echoed, "I haven't read that book either. I'm really curious about what kind of story would make Grandpa give it to Ichi as a gift." After hearing what Shisui said, Ichi immediately said, "It's about the son of a country noble. His father offended a minister, and his family suffered. He had to leave his hometown and flee. This book records what he saw and heard in various countries in the ninja world. But I only read the first volume, and he came to." Ichi thought about it and recounted what he saw yesterday bit by bit. Shisui listened carefully. He was really curious. He didn't have the opportunity to get the answer from Sima Yi after returning yesterday. Ichi finished telling the story and said, "This is a bound volume with more than 300 volumes. I can only read one volume a day before going to bed. It's a very interesting book. If Shisui is interested, you can ask Ichi to tell you after he finishes reading it." "Will this be too much trouble for Ichi?" Although Shisui didn't understand Sima Yi's idea, he still cooperated. "It's okay, I will read it carefully." Ichi shook his head repeatedly, with a look of joy on his face. "It would be great to tell Shisui stories while practicing. Ha ha ha. Then you can go practice. You don't have to stay here with me." Sima Yi rubbed his temples, looking tired. Ichi looked at Shisui immediately after hearing this. Shisui hesitated for a moment and nodded and said, "Then, Grandpa, you should take care of your rest. I'll be back in the evening." The two left the yard and passed by the street, but suddenly heard a discussion in their ears. "Have you heard? A ninja got drunk and beat someone to death yesterday." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. The Anger of the Elders. "What do you mean one ninja? There were two. I heard that those people were beaten to death because of the inaction of the Uchiha. There was even a child among them." "Damn Uchiha. These people only show off their power on the streets and bully us, but they can't even protect a child." "That's right. I really don't know why the Hokage-sama still wants these people to stay in the guard team. It took the Hokage-sama himself to catch those people." Although they were far away, Shisui still heard the words of these people clearly. He glanced at them and a trace of suspicion flashed in his eyes. "What's wrong, brother Shisui?" Ichi saw Shisui suddenly stop and couldn't help but look up and asked, It's okay. I just suddenly remembered some ninjutsu. Let's go. It's a good time to try it later." Shisui smiled and quickly took Ichi to jump onto the eaves and away from the crowd. At the same time, not long after Ichi left home, the first elder, the second elder and other elders came to Fugaku's house. Mikoto served tea to everyone and left silently. After Mikoto left, the great elder could no longer suppress his anger. He swept his cold eyes towards Fugaku and asked in a low voice, "Have you heard the rumors in the village?" Fugaku lowered his eyes and remained silent. Another elder also sighed and said, "The Konoha high-level officials have gone too far this time. They are blatantly throwing dirty water on us. Maybe there are just some villagers causing trouble, and it may not be the work of the third generation." The second elder said. His voice was not loud, and it seemed that even he could not convince himself. Who else could it be but them? "What do you mean by Uchiha in action? When have we ever been derelict in our duty? We clearly caught the person. Why was he taken away by the Anbu? What do they want? How dare they take the wanted prisoner privately? Are they trying to replace us?" The Konoha high-ups bullied us Uchiha and summoned the clan members to the Hokage building to ask for an explanation. The Great Elder was even more dissatisfied and asked directly, "Fugaku, how do you serve as the Minister of Security? Why did you hand over the prisoner to the Anbu? Now that rumors are spreading all over Konoha, how are you going to explain?" Seeing that the Great Elder named him directly, Fugaku had to speak. It was the Hokage's order for the Anbu to take away the wanted prisoner. As for today's rumors, I will ask the third Hokage for an explanation. Of course he knew where the person was, but he couldn't say it, especially not tell the Great Elder. Otherwise, with the Great Elder's personality, the conflict would only intensify. The second elder nodded in agreement. The Hokage has the power to deal with criminals. Since it was his order, there is nothing we can do about it. As for today's rumors, they may not have been caused by the Hokage. The first elder's chest kept rising and falling when he heard this. He looked at the two people with an expression of disappointment. If it's not the Hokage, then it must be Danzo. The second elder was speechless, and Fugaku raised his eyebrows and looked at him. The old thief Danzo has repeatedly targeted us. In my opinion, this must have been done by Danzo. Let's just gather people tonight and kill the Shimura clan. Yes, let them see that we Uchiha are not easy to bully, someone suggested, and the first elder did not refute. He thought about it carefully and it was indeed more likely that this was done by Danzo. Upon seeing this, the second elder hurriedly dissuaded him. No, the Jonin conference will be held in 3 days. If something happens at this time, it will definitely give the Konoha higher-ups a reason to suppress us. Why should we do such irrational things at this time? If it weren't for this incident, wouldn't we be suppressed? My daughter's hospital has always been filled with seriously injured ninjas who have returned from the front lines. These people were already dying, and now they are dying in the hospital, but they are putting the blame on my daughter. Isn't this suppression? Now when we go out, we will be maliciously insulted by those family members. We are kind enough to support them, but they treat us like this. Damn Tensai, this is too much. Wait until how long? We can endure. Until how long? Let's do it tonight and kill Danzo first. The second elder was unable to help himself and had to focus his attention on Fugaku. Fugaku did not dissuade him directly but said, "The third Hokage heard about our annual meeting and he has agreed to compensate the Uchiha." The Great Elder's expression changed slightly and his tone changed slightly, but he still said, "The annual meeting is our Uchiha's business. What does it have to do with him whether it is held or not?" And he promised to select Anbu members from the clan. Oh, everyone was stunned when these words came out and looked at each other. The second elder was overjoyed. It seems that the third Hokage is really going to reconcile with us this time. Only Shisui will enter the Anbu. If there are a few more vacancies, perhaps we can also enter the upper echelons of Konoha. The third Hokage is already old. If he can be patient, maybe he will have a chance to become the Hokage. What about Danzo? Let him live a few more days. After getting the promise, everyone calmed down for a while. The first elder pondered for a moment and looked at Fugaku. He slowly stood up and said, "This is the last time to trust Konoha." As for what happened today, he must give an explanation to Uchiha. After that, he slowly left. Everyone also stood up. Some followed closely, and some stopped. The second elder breathed a sigh of relief, and Fugaku was still sitting with a serious expression. "Danzo, I told you not to provoke Uchiha recently." In the Hokage building, the third Hokage immediately called Danzo after receiving the secret report. Danzo was scolded by the third Hokage as soon as he entered the door, and he was a little confused. After he reacted, he snorted coldly, "I do this for Konoha. I follow the will of my teacher and will never allow the Uchiha to become powerful." The Sandaime put down his pipe. Although he had some guesses, he didn't expect Danzo to be so stupid. It would be fine if he just started trouble, but he also added fuel to the fire. He looked gloomy inside. The Jonin conference will be in 3 days. You go and prepare. During this period, the root should not make any more moves. I will temporarily incorporate them into the Anbu. What? Danzo's face changed. Hiruzen, what do you mean? You actually disbanded the root because of the Uchiha. This is only temporary. No, Who will supervise the Uchiha without the root? Did you hear the villagers' discussions? They are all talking about the evil and inaction of the Uchiha. Enough. You still have the nerve to mention it. Don't leave the clan before the Jonin conference, Kakashi. Watch him. As soon as the words fell, a white-haired Anbu wearing a mask appeared in the office. Danzo paused, looking at the Sandaime in disbelief. He was about to say something when Kakashi reached out to stop him. Danzo-sama, please. Hiruzen, you will regret this. Danzo snorted coldly, left an indignant sentence, and turned away. After the two left, the Sandaime picked up the cigarette butt and puffed it before sighing. Go find Fugaku and ask him if he has decided on the candidate to join the Anbu. Also, tell him that Elder Danzo has been recuperating at home recently due to health reasons. I hope the security department can pay more attention to maintaining the stability of Konoha. Yes. Chapter 50. Maybe I burned my hand. On the streets of Konoha, Hua strolled among the crowd in the uniform of the guards, facing all kinds of strange looks and whispered discussions. He suppressed his anger and walked towards a salt shop with an expressionless face. It's really hard for the eighth uncle to ignore the discussions of these guys. He sighed in his heart and then entered the salt shop. Everyone in the store changed their faces when they saw this familiar face, and someone immediately walked to the back. Hui glanced around casually and did not stop him. In a moment, the owner of the salt shop hurried over. It was Kamimura Takeshi. Master Hui, I don't know what else you want to do in my shop today. I will definitely cooperate. Kamimura Takeshi wiped the sweat from his forehead and said in a low voice. Hua looked at him strangely. He remembered that he did not mention his name yesterday. Don't be nervous. The spy has not been caught yet. I am here for a routine inspection today. By the way, this is your account book. Thank you for bringing it in person. Come on, come on, come on. Master Hui, please get out of the way. Don't block your inspection. Although Kamimura Yazi is already over 30 years old, he still dares not show any dissatisfaction in front of a ninja who is 10 years younger than him. Hua took a casual glance and said, there is indeed no trace of spies in the store. Kamimura Yazi was relieved to hear this. Just as he was about to thank him, he heard the other party continue to say, although these people in your store are not spies, who can guarantee that spies will not be mixed in with the villagers who buy salt? If the people here have contact with spies, I can only... Before he finished speaking, Kamimura Yazi's face was already livid. Isn't this obviously targeting him? However, he had been in business for many years and had his own understanding. He did not say anything to contradict him but smiled and said, Master Hu is right. Can I have a word with you? Kamimura Yazi raised his hand to signal him to walk back. Hu nodded and walked forward, only to see him take out a wooden box and said, I left in a hurry yesterday and accidentally took this thing by mistake. Please help me take it back. Hu raised his eyebrows. He controlled the other party to come back yesterday. How could he take the wrong thing? He took the box and his face changed. He looked outside the store with an unnatural expression. Well, I will take it back. You have to pay attention to the villagers who come and go and don't let spies sneak in. After he said that, he put the things away. He didn't know where to put his hands, so he simply left the salt shop with his hands behind his back. Kamimura Yazi smiled all the way until Hua left, and then he returned to the store with mixed feelings. Hua walked on the street and always felt that the eyes of the crowd seemed more dazzling, making him uncomfortable all over, so he had to speed up to the next store. He spent the whole day wandering around the salt shops, and then took away the grain merchants in batches to avoid riots. No, Master Yi, this feels a little weird. It's different from the feeling of getting paid for the task. Those villagers are looking at me. I shouldn't be acting weird, right? They gave me this thing on their own initiative. I didn't force them. With a thump, Hua placed 8 boxes on the table. He looked at Sima Yi, who was a little incoherent, pacing around in the study, and talking to himself. Sima Yi was drinking tea. Seeing Hua wandering back and forth without stopping, he felt helpless. After a long time, he spoke. Take a long-term view. This is just the protection fee they gave to the security department. Only when Konoha is stable can they do business with peace of mind. This is all for Konoha and for them. Hua stopped and looked at Sima Yi in surprise. He couldn't help but sighed. Uncle Yi, it seems that I still haven't learned what you taught me, ha ha ha. Just think of it as you praising me. Open it and see what you have gained today. Sima Yi chuckled and didn't care. He raised his hand and pointed at the box. Hui pondered for a moment and rubbed his hands, but couldn't help but step forward to open them one by one. 300,000, 400,000, 350,000. 8 boxes, a total of 3 million taels, which is probably half a month's income for each of them. Looking at the thick stack of banknotes, Hui couldn't help but gasp. These people are really generous. They gave me 3 million taels a day. If I go there once a day, it will be 90 million taels a month. It's much more than the funds allocated to the security department last year. Hee. With this money we don't have to suffer the bullying of those high-level officials. We can train more ninjas to rebel directly. Sima Yi laughed when he heard it. 90 million taels? You dared to think about it. If we copy them all, we can get this number. Hui smiled and touched the banknotes and said, I understand. We need stability and long-term. If you can't give 90 million, 9 million will be fine. Sima Yi nodded. 3 times should be the limit. After that, we just have to wait for them to speak. This kind of wealth is not long-lasting after all. Sima Yi didn't care about the 9 million taels. He pushed the box to Hui. Take this money. Give it to me. Hui was stunned. As a senior ninja of the Uchiha clan and a veritable elite of Konoha, if he was allowed to do the mission, 3 million taels would not be a problem for him at all. But this money is different. One is the reward for fighting for life and death, and the other is sent by others during street patrol. It's not for you, but for the security department. You should observe carefully in the security department and see which families have difficulties. Even if it's not usual, you can invite these people to drink and make more friends. Before he finished speaking, Hui had already understood what Sima Yi meant. He happily put away the money and said, yes, this is all for Uchiha and Konoha. Dong grandpa. I'm back. Shocked, Hui just put the money in a pile and was about to put it away when there was a knock on the door from outside. Sima Yi smiled and happily watched Hui's busy scene, and said softly, come in, Shisui. Hui is here too. Shisui pushed the door open and saw Hui rubbing his chest with one hand and groping on the table with the other, as if looking for something. Brother Hui, what's wrong with you? Me? No, I just came to ask Uncle Yi if he wants to go out for a drink. If he doesn't want to go, it's fine. I'm going to the security department to have a barbecue with everyone, Hui said as if he just remembered Shisui and asked again, Shisui, do you want to go for a barbecue together? No, thank you, Brother Hui. I just had grilled fish. Oh, okay, then I'll go first. Shisui looked at Hui, who was leaving in embarrassment with a suspicious look, and asked, what's wrong with him? Sima Yi smiled, picked up the teacup and replied, maybe he burned his hand. Shisui nodded, without doubting him, and did not investigate further. Instead, he closed the door and said seriously, Grandpa, the top leaders have taken action again. When I came back today, I inquired about it. The conflict between drunken ninjas that day has spread throughout Konoha. The villagers are all complaining about the inaction of the security department. Sima Yi's face was calm, and he asked calmly, what do you think about this? Grandpa, you taught me to analyze cause and effect based on interests. This despicable behavior now, just like the White Fang incident in the past, must have been done by 3 generations. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.